Yeah, the HP appeal. All right. Good afternoon. Welcome to Oklahoma City Board of Adjustment. It's 1:30. The lights are on. We've got a quorum, so I'm going to call the meeting to order. And next item is minutes. Everybody look at those.
Make a motion to receive the July 16, 2026 meeting minutes.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Cast your votes.
I'm a yay. Trying to get in here.
All right, minutes received. Next, continuance requests, withdrawals, none from staff or applicants. Is there anyone in the audience who wants to request a continuance or withdraw an item? All right, there's no consent docket, so we're going to do the ones that require separate vote, and we've got a scheduling problem, so I'm going to take, there we go. Is Katie on the way? I want to take
She's
that
here.
one first. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm going to take this out of order, so. Yours.
She has two.
It is case 20. So is Rihanna here? Did I say that right?
Rain, I don't know if she's here.
Wolofsky?
Oh, sir.
Okay, we'll wait a little bit then. Okay, back to number one. Cindy?
Item number one, case number 16312 is a request of Patty Osborne of Roaring Fork Associates for a variance to sign regulations located at 11949 North Pennsylvania Avenue.
Patty Osborne? Anybody from Roaring Fork Associates? Oh, here we go.
I'm Jeff Birchall with Signs and Wonders, here representing them. So we're here to just request a variance to add a message center to this existing sign. Due to the property's setback to where the tenant spaces are, it makes visibility very difficult. And we just feel that it will improve not only the property, but it is also going to be an improvement for the business owners themselves. So we're just asking for a variance to add a message center.
Okay, I don't have anybody signed up to speak on this one. Does anyone want to address the board on this application? Questions, comments from the board? Does anybody want to make a motion?
So the request is just to add an EMD to the existing sign.
Yeah, come on back up, please.
Yeah, so there's an existing tenant pylon sign, and so we want to add the message center to below at the bottom under the tenant spaces. I believe there should have been a, yeah, so that's what the proposed sign is.
And currently, the sign code would not allow adding EMD to an existing sign.
Sarah Welch, Planning Department. Our understanding is that this sign is now no longer conforming under our new sign code, and changing to EMD is considered, sorry, would be considered like intensification, so therefore they could not get the permit to do the EMD without a variance.
Where's the sign located on the property?
The north side on 122nd, actually.
So this right here would be 122nd,
Yes, it is. Yep,
and then the strip center is back here,
correct.
and then Penn is kind of behind us.
Yes, that's correct.
It's already non-conforming because it's, I don't know, maybe too tall.
I think it's non-conforming due to the size, and the part of the sign code that addresses this is in our new Article 16, and it says that if the sign is currently an EMD, then you can change to a less intense. But because a conversion of a sign that is not EMD is considered an alteration that increases the degree of nonconformity, they cannot get the permit for the EMD unless the variance is approved. Typically, we would permit an EMD level 1, the same as static, but because of the new sign code, they're not able to even do that, is our understanding.
And level 1's the lightest level of EMD. It's got the least amount of light. There's no residential near here. It's a sea of signs anyways. An EMD across the street with the gas at 7-Eleven. I don't think it's that big of a change.
You good with it then?
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to make a motion to approve case number 16312 for the purpose that it meets the statutory requirements for the requested variance.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. You're approved.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Item number 2, case number 16315 is a request of Chad Arnold on behalf of Midtown Browns LLC for a variance to sign regulations in the DBD Downtown Business District located at 1100 North Walker Avenue.
Hi, my name is Weston Dennis with Dennis Studio Architects, 38 Northeast 7th Street. This project is the Mezzo Bakery. It's a fit out in the historic Clyde Supermarket building, kind of better known as Brown's Bakery, or the old Brown's Bakery space. And my client is seeking to put a canopy mounted sign on the south end of the building, kind of where the roof curves around and flattens out. And that same location in the original Clyde's Bakery, that was a sign right there as well. So our design is seeking to just give a nod to the history of the building and put a sign back in that same location. This was heard before DDC previously, and they recommended approval just based on the fact that it was a character-defining feature in our NPS Part 2 amendment. Happy to answer any questions you guys have.
I don't have anybody signed up to speak on this one. Does anyone want to address the board on this application? Okay, anything from the board?
So it's just going to be along that flat part of the roof after where it comes down on the south side of the building.
Yes, sir.
It was approved by the Downtown Movie Committee.
I don't have questions. You good? All right. I'm going to make a motion to approve case number 16315 for the purpose that it meets the statutory requirements for the requested variance.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. You're approved.
Item number 3, case number 16298 is a request of Holly Hunt on behalf of City LLC for a variance to parking regulations located at 2130 Northwest 40th Street.
Hello, my name is Holly Hunt, 5913 Northwest 82nd Circle. So Cindy, I thought she was going to give a little intro. So this project essentially has a small retail component in the front that's a dispensary, but the majority of the building, and I mean 80% of the building, is storage for the owner's other businesses and shops throughout the Oklahoma City metro. So our whole goal in this project is truly just to add warehouse space, and therefore we hope that we understand this building is existing. It's existing non-conforming today. So we understand that this increase in square footage does increase the need for parking. However, this is purely storage space, which you can clearly see on the floor plan. So we don't feel that the parking needs will be changed in any way as a result of this addition. Did I step in front of you, Cindy? Okay. Okay. So yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions. We're confident that, as it sits today, that this property has no parking issues. We've never had any complaints by neighbors or such about overflow parking needed or anything like that. So it's currently functioning well, and we hope that this addition won't impact that parking situation whatsoever. So I appreciate your consideration. I'm happy to answer any questions.
And there's no one signed up to speak on this one. Does anyone want to address the board on this application? Okay.
I have no problem with it. I think the owner of the property knows how many parking spaces they need, and if they don't need any more, and they're comfortable with it.
Any other questions or comments? Ready for a motion?
Make a motion to approve case number 16298 for the purpose that it meets the statutory requirements for the requested variance.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. You're approved.
Thank you so much, board members.
Item number 4, case number 16318 is a request of Francisco Lopez Rojas on behalf of Beatriz Huete for a variance to the minimum lot side requirement for a manufactured mobile home located at 3719 Bosworth Avenue.
Good evening, good afternoon. My name is Paola Espinosa. I work for Titan Factory Direct Homes, sell manufactured homes, and today I'm speaking on behalf of Francisco Lopez Rojas regarding property 3719 Bosworth Avenue. We're requesting approval of the variance to allow placement of a new single-family manufactured home on approximately 0.47 acres, R1 zoned. Mr. Lopez purchased the property in good faith with intention of making it his primary residence. He is currently renting, and he has already moved forward with ordering a new home for this property when we found that you needed 5 acres or more to be able to place a manufactured home. We understand why zoning requirements exist, and we're not asking to change the overall residential use of the property. The property would remain residential, and the home would be used as his primary residence. There has been a significant commitment toward becoming a homeowner, and by purchasing this land and ordering the home, we are respectfully asking for the board to grant this variance so he can move forward placing his home on the property. Thank you for consideration. I'm happy to answer any questions in regards to this.
Just to make sure that we're talking about the same thing, we're talking about a mobile home, right? Titled as a mobile home.
Yes, sir. So since this home was built in a factory, there has to be a title so that it can be transported since there's wheels and axles. However, upon delivery, wheels and axles will come off. Home will be blocked, set, tied down, and anchored. And yeah.
And I will say that I do appreciate that you're here and representing him and didn't sell him this already for him to then have to deal with this problem on his own. And I will also tell you that I will be voting against this because, as a precedent, I will not allow a manufactured home on less than 5 acres. It's just where I stand on that.
And I've got one signed up to speak. Cheryl Orange?
Thank you, sir.
Oh, come on up to the microphone so we can get it on the record. Give us your name and address.
My name is Cheryl Orange. I live at 10829 Northeast 36. I've lived there for 62 years, which is around the corner for them. We built 3 homes. We tried to comply with the city of Oklahoma City. The home we had prior to this burned down. When we got ready to build the home we live in now, you guys told us that it was too big for our property. We paid about $10,000 to go back and get our blueprints because we wanted to stay in the neighborhood, and made our home smaller to comply with the zoning. We paid $20,000 to connect with your city water. All we ask that if you come in our community that you just comply with the zones we already have and don't change us, just come a part of us. That's all I want to say. Thank you.
Thanks.
Any other questions, comments?
So I'll just go to an alternative. So there's other types of homes that could be built, but it needs to be a single-family home on a concrete foundation in a half-acre lot to meet the ordinance. So the modular home works, or just a regular standard.
You said a modular home will work?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, I'm in the process of selling a modular home and it's going to Guthrie. A modular home is still going to have wheels and axles and be set on blocks.
Okay, so it cannot be titled as a mobile home. It has to be, a modular home could come on a semi, on a trailer, and put together on a foundation, which is the minimum standard.
Okay. Thank you.
Hey, we're not done, so
Oh.
you can stay there. 'Cause
Oh,
that's just my opinion. There's other opinions.
Oh, okay.
Is there anyone else who wants to address the board on this application? Okay. Anything else from the board?
No, I'll probably just echo what Dawn has stated, and I think that we've actually denied one of similar one here in the last
Same neighborhood, yeah.
month or two. So I think for consistency, I'm going to make a motion to deny case number 16318.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to deny. Cast your votes. And this one's denied.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 5, case number 16320, is a request of Amir Shahzad for a variance to the development regulations for a car lot in C3 located at 18700 Southeast 59th Street.
Hello, my name is Mohammed Zahid. I work for Sangla LLC at 18700 Southeast 59th Street in Oklahoma City. It's basically on the outskirts of Oklahoma City, a gas station, convenience store. And the land over there and the property that we have is a little bit bigger for a convenience store. And also the building is 4,000 square feet, and we want to add another business over there, which is a car lot, and we ask the variance to be granted, if possible, to have a car lot over there with the existing business of a gas station convenience store.
Nobody signed up to speak on this one. Is there anyone who wants to address the board on this application? Okay, anything from the board?
And I'll start. And this would still need a special permit to operate, right? So it'd still have to go through Planning Commission?
Yes, we were told that after the variance is applied and approved, or whichever way it goes, then we have to go to the special permit board, I guess.
Yeah, I just wanted clarification on that. And I will just say for me that it does not meet any of the standards needed to get the variance, so I can't be in support of it.
I just want to say the property is on the outside.
I know exactly where it is, yes, and it's operating as a convenience store.
Right.
Would the board like a more thorough explanation of the variance request? Yes. Or, okay. So currently, in order to do auto sales, you need a license. In order for us to sign off on a license within the C3 district, you need a special permit, which goes through Planning Commission and City Council. In order for that application to be accepted, it has to meet all of the conditions of a special permit. In this case, the condition that is not met is that Southeast 59th Street is not considered a major arterial or an expressway or highway. It's considered a minor or rural arterial, and therefore, he cannot apply for the special permit unless this variance is granted.
And basically what I was saying is that the standards that are required, the four separate standards, I don't believe that it meets any of those standards. So just the fact that he has a large parking lot doesn't meet the standard that the minimum necessary relief. It's just.
Anything else from the board?
Just to make sure, Sarah, you're saying that if this was located on a road that was considered a major
Arterial, then yes,
arterial, then it would be okay?
well, you'd still have to get the special permit and get through Planning Commission. I don't want to say what would happen there, but he could ask then for the change in zoning.
So they only hold back before it, so that even applying for the special permit
Yeah,
is the fact that it's
Not
minor, it's
arterial.
not considered major.
right.
Correct. Our instructions for accepting a special permit application is that the site has to be located and have frontage on an interstate highway, expressway, or major arterial street. And then even if you do have a major arterial street, if you have residential across the street, you have to have at least 300-foot of right-of-way. So basically the other side of a highway. In this case, he doesn't check that first box of being located on a street that's considered at least a major arterial. So he's here to try to check that first box before he could apply even for the special permit, which
But
goes,
if he was on the west side of I-35, would that be considered major?
it's based off the street type for Southeast 59th in this case.
And yet, I mean, if he was west of 35 on 59th, it would probably be major. It's just so far rural that it's not. I just, you know, when you read the four separate
Yeah.
standards, nothing compels me to say yes on any of them.
Is there anything that the property owner, we over there, that we could do to make that property used as a second business of a car lot.
Not sure I've got an answer to that one.
No, for me, I mean, it just, because of its location, it just really doesn't meet the standard.
We were, I mean, just saying that we were under the impression that since it's rural, that it wouldn't be less of a rule that if it's not that busy in that area, I mean, it's pretty, I mean, quiet. Then that's why we had, and also we have a bigger building. It's 4,000 square feet, and also the lot is bigger, and we have the area and the land to for the parking of the convenience store and also the car lot, the cars that would be coming.
Nobody signed up to speak on this one. Does anyone want to address the board on this application? Okay, anything else from the board?
I'm with Don. I'm having trouble with the 4 elements, and I don't think they've all been satisfied. So based off of that, I'm going to make a motion to deny case number 16320.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to deny.
All right.
Now
Thank you.
cast your votes. Okay. This one is denied.
Item number 6, case number 16307, is a request of Travis Polly of Populous on behalf of the city for a variance to regulations to approve the multipurpose stadium located at 6 Southeast 4th Street.
Good afternoon. Thank you all for seeing us today. We're here to ask for your approval for, I think we have 7 different variances that have gone through the DDC. They've recommended approval for these based on the new multipurpose stadium. So due to the nature of this project and where it is in downtown is primarily why we're seeking these variances. And I'll walk through each of them here with you today and happy to answer any questions you have. So the first variance, I guess, just to orient us, so we all know where we are, we're right here in the lot that is just north of I-40 between Oklahoma City Boulevard and Shields, or E.K. Gaylord there. Right in the middle, there aren't any existing roads around us right now. That's all part of the district that's going in there, so that makes it a little bit difficult to talk about right-of-ways and setbacks and things like that because we don't have any yet. But we are basing this on what is proposed. The stadium will go right at that location. What you don't see there is we're going to have a primary road running on the north side of the stadium and on the south side of the stadium, and then 2 smaller roads on the east and west sides of the stadium. The north side and the south side will be the public roads, which will have right-of-ways, and the ones running on the east and west side of the stadium will be primarily designed to be pedestrian roads that are used by pedestrians during game days. They will be accessible by emergency vehicles, deliveries, things like that, but the goal is to make this as walkable and dense as a community as we can as it develops. So the first variance that we're asking for is a setback variance on those right-of-ways. So currently in downtown district, it's required to have a setback. The buildings are required to be built within 10 feet of your right-of-way. Obviously, this is not your typical building. It's a stadium. So on the north side, we need to have space to come into the stadium for queuing, for lines, for entering the gates. So it's set back further than 10 feet on the north side. On the south side, which is what you're looking at here, We have some parking, which isn't shown here, and some broadcast trucks, so that's where our broadcast trucks will park and everything like that. So it's set back beyond that 10 feet. The second variance that we're asking for is the height variance. So right now, the height in this area is required to be 3 stories or 50 feet tall. Our canopy that you see right there is well over 50 feet tall. The edge of the canopy is around 58 to 60 feet tall. That's not, I think the problem is that's not considered part of the building. It's the canopy. So we're asking for a variance on that. We are above the height, but just asking for a variance to make sure we're clear that the buildings, I guess, aren't 50 to 60 feet tall, or aren't 50 feet tall. The third and the fourth variance that we're requesting both relate to the scoreboard. The fourth variance is the regulation restricting pole signs. When we reviewed this with the DDC, they said that scoreboard could be considered a pole sign. It's the one you see right there on the north side of the stadium. So we're asking for a variance so that we can have the scoreboard there. The second one related to that is the size of the pole signs that are required. I think the maximum size is 50 square feet. Obviously, the scoreboard's much larger than that. So we're asking for a variance on that as well. Back to my list here, I apologize. The fifth one is also related to signage. There's a regulation limiting the number of freestanding signs to 6. As you can imagine, that doesn't work very well for a stadium where wayfinding is key. So at each of the gates, we have a freestanding signage that shows you what gate you're at, a map of the stadium, where you need to go to get to your gate. And so there are more than 6 of those. There's about 10 of them located around the stadium to make sure that everybody can find their way around the stadium properly. And the last 2 relate to fences. So there's a regulation on the maximum height of a front yard fence of 6 feet. Our front yard was considered the north side, so where the scoreboard is in this rendering. We have a nice black iron fence along that side that's 8 feet tall, so it's a little bit taller than what the front yard regulations currently have. That's to secure the stadium area. And then there's also a regulation limiting the fence types to no ribbed steel fencing. Talking with the DDC, I think the intent of that is not to put up like poor-looking metal panels for fencing. We do have a little bit of metal fencing on the south side, so on the left side of the screen you're looking at right here around our loading dock. It's actually not shown in that rendering, but we have some screen fencing around the loading dock and mechanical yard just to try to clean up that area, make it look as clean and neat as possible. So it's a nice metal fence that we have located right there in that area. So we're asking for a variance to allow that as well. Once again, all of these were presented and recommended for approval to the DDC, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have about any of these.
No one signed up to speak on this application. Does anybody want to address the board on this one? Okay, anything from the board?
I have nothing. I appreciate the detail and explanation of all of the changes.
Ready for a motion?
I don't have any questions. I'm just trying to figure out when's the first season?
March 28th, or spring of 28, I should say. I don't know when the actual games are going to be yet, but yeah, spring of 28 is when we kick everything off.
I think we're all excited. I'll make a motion then to approve case number 16307 for the purpose that it meets the statutory requirements for the requested variance.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. You're approved.
Item number 7, case number 16299 is an application by Jay Gallagher on behalf of Josh Barrett to allow home sharing at 1629 Northwest 18th Street.
Hello. Jay Gallagher, 1309 Glenbrook Terrace, on behalf of Josh Barrett. We're asking for a special exception for home sharing at 1629 Northwest 18th Street. It is a 2-bed, 2-bath, We're asking for the standard 5 guest count, 9 PM to 8 AM quiet hours, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
No one signed up to speak on this application. Does anybody want to address the board on this one?
Just to go over, so the house is a 2-bedroom, 1-bath home?
2-bedroom, 2-bath. It's brand new, newly renovated. That's the new driveway there, so just looking at it, you know, probably 2 or 3, trying not to block the walkway there.
So it has 2 beds and 2 full baths?
Correct.
How do you get to the 5th person?
We haven't furnished it yet. It's, like I said, it's a newly renovated place, so I'm thinking it's got a fairly large living room, so we'll probably try to do either a pull-out couch in the living room or maybe a bunk bed in one of the second bedrooms.
Anyone signed up on this one? No.
I just would feel more comfortable with this small of a home, and 2 beds, just for a maximum number of 4.
Yeah, like I said, we haven't furnished it yet, so if there's any, recommendations on,
And you can only put 1 car in the driveway.
I'm sorry?
You can only fit 1 car in the driveway in front of the sidewalk, and then maybe you can fit 1 behind the sidewalk, but
Yeah, it's on a corner lot too, and there is street parking available on the south side.
yeah, I'm gonna say no street parking on this, because it is on the corner.
Okay. It's hard to say, it's hard for me to understand when we say guest counts, because a lot of times that includes
Yeah.
infants and, children and stuff, so.
And, right.
Are we
So-
referring to like 4 adults and then?
Yeah.
Okay. I think 4 adults is completely doable and appropriate.
How many square feet?
I don't have that in front of me.
Okay.
Looked it up.
I can look it up in Zillow.
I remember this property coming through Planning Commission too, to be subdivided and 2 homes being put on it.
Yes, that's correct. We originally thought about doing both, but I think the city block doesn't support 2 licenses, so we went with this one. But he owns both the houses on that corner. They're kind of stacked along Blackwell. They're kind of one right next to the other, but this one in particular is 1,152 square feet.
Yep.
I don't see any reason not to give 5 personally. If you're gonna have a pull-out couch, then in the living room, that's fine with me. I'm gonna be in support of no on-street parking on this one though. Can you fit 1 car in front and 1 car between the sidewalk and the street? I mean, can you fit 2 cars there that way?
Since it goes all the way up to the porch there, I think you can. It just
I mean,
kind
you
of
can fit
depends.
1 in front of the sidewalk. I just don't know between the street and the sidewalk is close, but
I think I think
I'd
there's
allow
definitely
it.
1 on the north side of the sidewalk and probably 1 on the south side as well. Can you fit 2 there? I don't know. I'd have to measure it. It's been a while since I've been there. We've been renovating it. And
I mean, I would feel comfortable with 2 cars.
yeah.
No on-street parking, and I'm willing to give the 5 people.
Okay. And the term would be 1 year.
Correct.
You've already got quiet hours. So,
Ready?
yeah, I'll make a motion to approve case number 16299 for the purpose that it meets the statutory requirements for the requested special exception with the following modifications. This will be for a maximum number of 2 vehicles, no on-street parking, and for a term of 1 year.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Now cast your votes. You're approved.
Thank you for your time.
Item number 8, case number 16302 is an application by Hannah Kubisic on behalf of Viking Property Management LLC to allow home sharing at 4 Southwest 66th Street.
Hi, my name's Hannah, on behalf of Viking Property Management LLC. The address is 4 Southwest 66th Street. I'm requesting approval for a special exception to operate a short-term rental at this property. It's a single-family home, 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, and I have invested a lot of time and resources into renovating and improving this property over the last couple months. My goal is to maintain it as a well-managed, high-quality property that is a positive addition to the neighborhood. I'm happy to answer any questions as well.
Okay. No one signed up to speak on this application. Is there anyone who wants to address the board on this one? Okay.
I'll just go over the application again. So it's a 3-bed, 2-bath home?
Correct. The master bedroom is the size of 2 bedrooms. It's considered a master suite, so there will be 2 beds in there.
I'm going to tell you that for me, I'm going to stick with our 2 per bedroom plus 1. So it's, for me, it's going to be a maximum of guest numbers would be 7.
Okay.
I'd like to revise the quiet hours to 9 p.m. to 8 a.m.
Okay.
I'd like to limit the number of vehicles to be 4,
Okay.
and then no on-street parking also.
No problem.
And the term would be 1 year. We always do 1 year on the first time these come through.
Anyone sign up?
No.
No? And I'm in support of what Dawn just said, but I will make a motion to approve case number 16302 for the purpose that it meets the statutory requirements for the requested special exception with the following modifications. Maximum number of people shall be 7. Quiet hours from 9 p.m. to 8 a.m. 4-car maximum. No on-street parking, and for a term of 1 year.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. You're approved.
Thank you very much.
Item number 9, case number 16303 is an application by Michael S. and Lindsay to allow home sharing located at 701 Northwest 16th Street. This is located in the HP Historic Preservation District, and yesterday at their meeting, they gave a recommendation of approval to the Board of Adjustment for this home share application.
Hello, I'm Mike Deach, resident owner, me and my wife Lindsay. This is a small apartment above our detached garage, not the primary residence we're looking to have for home sharing. So for friends, family, and then we'd like the opportunity to Airbnb it well. We have 1 dedicated off-street parking that has alley access. It is, I don't know, 550, 600 square feet, just 1 bedroom, 1 bath, small living area. And my wife was at the HP meeting yesterday for approval.
I don't have anybody signed up to speak on this one. Is there anyone who wants to address the board on this application? Okay.
Nope. So let's just go through the application. So it's a 1-bedroom, 1 bath.
Correct.
And for me, I'd like to see this at a maximum of 2 people.
Yeah, that would not be a problem.
I'd like to revise your quiet hours from 9 p.m. to 8 a.m.
Understandable.
And one vehicle on the property parked on the back,
Yeah, that's all there's space for. Yeah.
right? And then no on-street parking, and then the term would be 1 year.
Okay. Just to clarify on the 2, if there was a small infant and child, does that count on the couch? I'm just for clarification. I know it was mentioned earlier, I couldn't hear if.
Yeah, again, so you'd advertise it for 2.
Gotcha.
How long have you been operating it as a Airbnb?
We did have it listed earlier this year until we realized that there was license implications, and we took it down once we found out that we were a little bit ignorant to it, and that was our fault, and took it down, and it's been down for a while now.
Sarah, can you confirm what's showing up?
Rentalscape.
Sure. Sarah Welch, Planning Department. We have a Rentalscape software that we can see post listings. So first seen back in November, not currently live, and looks like it was not booked or used since July.
Yeah, we took it down. We actually had to cancel a few. Once we realized what we did, we canceled some outstanding ones that were booked forward and took it down and went through the right process. That was our ignorance. We started this project back in 20 when we built the original garage. We tore the one down, built the original garage, and that's when we looked into it and kind of put it on hold for a while for several years, and just recently came back to it and finished it in the last year or so. So it's been a long, drawn-out thing. So.
You said first showed up in November of 25?
It shows, first seen by Airbnb back in November. For sure has been rented, but currently not live, not booked, and blocked off.
Can you show how many days it was rented between when it went live and when the violation came up?
The violation, I'd have to confirm the date of the violation.
That's June 24th.
June. Well, I actually don't see, Airbnb shows it first seen back in November, but there's no rental history until March. So, yeah, March, April, May, June.
Yeah, I think my wife created the listing.
Yeah.
We weren't quite done yet, just got it ready, had it listed for a few months, realized that we didn't do our due diligence, took it down, and been going through the process, went through HP and here today, so.
So you had it on for about 3 months and you've had it off for almost 2?
Yeah, that's about right, yeah. I think we maybe got some in February when we first went, 3 to 4 months, and then it's been down for a couple months, so.
All right, I'll actually make a motion then to approve case number 16303 for the purpose that it meets the statutory requirements for the special exception with the following modifications. Quiet hours are going to be from 9 p.m. to 8 a.m. No on-street parking. Did you say 1 car maximum?
Yes.
1 car max, and for a term of 1 year.
I'll second.
And then we talked about guests, so we're going to limit it to 2 guests. All right.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. You're approved.
Thank you for your flexibility.
Item number 10, case number 16304 is an application by Mercedes Carpenter to allow home sharing at 812 Southwest 67th Street.
Hello, I'm Mercedes Carpenter, looking for a special exception at 812 Southwest 67th for a 4-bedroom, 2-bath.
No one signed up to speak on this application. Is there anybody who wants to address the board on this one?
Does this still have a swimming pool in the backyard?
I'm sorry?
Is there a swimming pool in the backyard of this house?
Yes, but it's not working right now. I have it closed.
Trying to see what it says. How big is this house?
It's 2,600 square foot. It's online, I think, for 1,600, but there's 1,000 square foot in the basement that has a living area, full bath, laundry, and 2 bedrooms.
So it's got 3 beds up on the main floor, 1 bath?
Two on the main, 2 on the lower. There's a bath on the upper and on the lower.
And you want 9 guests. I need to know how you can accommodate 9 people.
In one of the bedrooms, I have 2 beds, which is a full and a twin, and then in their den, there's also a sleeper, so I could accommodate 10, but I only put 9.
Zilla's showing it as a 3, 1.5. So the first floor is 1,600 square feet, and then the basement's 1,000?
Yeah. My grandparents have owned the house since '98. I inherited it last year when my grandpa passed away. I've been cleaning it out and doing stuff the last year and a half, but I gave birth on the same day my grandpa passed, so I became a mom and a homeowner overnight.
It's just a lot of people in a single-family home
Yeah,
of
I mean,
this size.
8 is okay. I mean, I can lower it, it's fine.
I'd like to see it advertised at 7. I really would.
Is there like a way, like if I was to get this and like get it approved, like I could reevaluate the square foot, like?
So in 1 year, you'd come back to get a renewal. If you showed us pictures and how things were done, and I could get a better concept of what was happening in there, it would help me a lot, actually.
Okay.
And
I know the house, it
and
shows
you
nothing
might
like
be
what it
able to-
looks like.
And you might be able to talk them into more as far as the guest number.
Yeah.
And I'll just go over some of the other stuff, and that is the quiet hours are right. The number of vehicles can be 4, and I would like no on-street parking, and then the term would be 1 year. So right now, just the debate would be how many guests.
Okay.
It appears that the county assessor listed as 1,630 square feet and just 1 story, so.
Yeah, they don't recognize a basement. That's
Right, right. Uh-huh.
There's just not a lot of basements in the city, and that's why I said I'd like to just see the accommodation.
So I guess I'm going to propose the solution that we can approve you for 7, or if you want to provide pictures right now, we can delay this to the next meeting.
Okay.
It's up to you, and you can get possibly 9. I don't know what your thoughts are as far as like advertising and whether a 7 versus a 9 is going to make a huge difference as far as like income or whatnot. But I'm good either way. So you can get 7 today, or if you want 9, I'd love to see pictures. You can defer it 2 weeks and come back and try to get 9 with the pictures.
Okay. I'll deal with the 7 for now because I don't want to come back in a couple weeks. I'll wait for the next year and I'll bring on my pictures. So
Okay.
we'll do that. I don't care.
All right, then, but yeah, if you will submit that next time, be sure
Okay.
to renew, start filing your renewal
Okay.
before your 1 year expires, and staff can definitely guide you on that, but be sure to do it timely.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve 160, case number 16304, for the purpose that it meets the statutory requirements for the requested special exception with the following modifications. Maximum number of people shall be 7 quiet hours from 9 p.m. to 8 a.m. No on-street parking, 4-car maximum, and for a term of 1 year.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. You're approved.
Thank you.
Item number 11, case number 16305, is an application by Libby Ross on behalf of the applicant to allow home sharing at 10042 Hanger Drive.
Good afternoon. My name is Misty Stowe. I'm here on behalf of Libby Ross and George Canalopoulos for 1042 Hanger Drive. Happy to answer any questions you might have. It is a 3-bedroom, 2-bath.
I don't have anybody signed up on this one. Does anyone want to address the board on this application? Okay.
This home's in the Wheeler District.
Yes, it is.
Is the garage available to park in?
No.
Okay. And I'm not going to put a limit on the number of vehicles because it's all street parking down there, so couldn't tell the difference anyways, so. And the term would be 1 year.
Can I ask why not a 3-year?
Well, let me look and check and see what I wrote down.
Not a timely renewal.
Oh, that's why. So it was submitted on June 24th, and it ran out on June 5th. That's why. So, as he said to the prior people, just 2 months prior, start the application process, and you will be sure to not be new and be a renewal.
Gotcha.
And I believe the renewal application's less too, right? Dollar-wise?
Yes, it is.
No one signed up?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve case number 16305 for the purpose that it meets the statutory requirements for the special exceptions for a term of 1 year.
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. You're approved.
Thank you.
Item number 12, case number 16306, is an application by Libby Ross on behalf of Minion Advantage Properties LLC to allow home sharing at 1146 Northwest 40th Street.
There seems to be a mistake. We do not manage this property, and this property does not belong to the owner. Yeah. I'm number 13, too. Okay, it said Libby Ross on it.
Hi. We are David and Suzanne Grotman here instead of Lauren and Mike McQueen. They actually live out of town and were not available today. But we are here for the special exception of home sharing at this address of 1146 Northwest 40th.
No one signed up on this one. Does anyone want to address the board on this application? Okay, anything from the board?
Cindy, before we start, did you get that information? And do you need that repeated?
Yes, it is Lauren McQueen at 1146 Northwest 40th Street for case number 16306, and it was noticed correctly. It's
Okay.
just,
Okay. Just wanted to make sure you got all that information.
yes.
I just have a couple of questions. And on the application, so it's a 4-bedroom home.
Yes.
I'm going to ask that you advertise it for a maximum number of guests to be 9 instead of the 10 that you have down, which is 2 per bedroom plus 1, which is our standard. Revise the quiet hours to 9 p.m. to 8 a.m. And then we can discuss how many people, how many cars can be in the drive, and if the garage is used. Is the garage available?
The garage and the drive are all available.
Okay, so one in the garage and 2 in the drive? So
There's also a carport in front of the garage and room for 2 beyond that, yes. It's a pretty long drive.
I just didn't.
Also, width-wise, the driveway can handle 2 cars side by side.
They're 4-car. They just do 4-car maximum.
Yeah, I'll put 4 in the drive and 1 in the garage if they can fit it in there. And I'm going to say no on-street parking because it's on the corner. And the term is 1 year.
Okay.
So if you're good with those 2 revisions, the 9.
My understanding and communicating back to them, in 1 year, they reapply for a new permit. Is that how that, okay.
Yep.
Let's start that early.
About 10 months from now, start.
Okay.
10 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just to make sure you get it in.
Okay.
Yeah,
You want to be a renewal.
gotcha. Okay.
This is a 4-bedroom with 9 people, 2,200 square feet. So I just want to be on the record. Just the reason I'm voting for 9 instead of 7 is because on the previous home, the tax assessor still showed it at 3 homes. So
Yeah, 3 bedrooms.
just for consistency purposes, I'm going to kind of lay out my stance on the square footage. But I'm going to make a motion to approve case number 16306 for the purpose that it meets the statutory requirements for the requested special exception with the following modifications. Maximum number of people shall be 9 quiet hours from 9 p.m. to 8 a.m. No on-street parking. 5-car maximum, 1 in the garage, 4 in the driveway, and for a term of 1 year.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. You're approved, or they're approved.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So item number 13 is an application by Libby Ross for home sharing located at 2724 Northwest 47th Street.
Good afternoon. My name is Misty Stowe. I'm here on behalf of Libby Ross and Minion Advantage Properties for 2724 Northwest 47th Street. It is a 3-bedroom, 1-bath.
I don't have anybody signed up to speak on this one. Does anyone want to address the board on this application?
Just to go over the application then, it is 3-bedroom, 1 bath. Maximum number of guests you want is 6.
Yes.
You have the quiet hours from 9 p.m. to 8 a.m. Sure. You can put 2 cars in the drive. Is the garage available?
Yes.
So 1 in the garage?
Maybe 3.
Yeah.
You could fit 1 there. I mean, you could do 3 cars.
And the term would be 1 year.
You go with 3? Okay. Any concern with 6 people using 1 bathroom?
Wouldn't be me.
All right. I'll make a motion to approve case number 16316 for the purpose that it meets the statutory requirements. For the request of special exception with the following modifications. This will be for a term of 1 year, 3-car maximum. I think that was it, right? No on-street parking.
Yeah.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Mine says waiting. I vote yes.
Thank you, guys. Have a good rest of your day.
Approved.
Okay, item number 14, case number 16308 is an application by Dana Ferguson on behalf of D. Ferguson Properties LLC to allow home sharing at 2616 North Robinson Avenue. This is located in the HL Historic Landmark Overlay District, and it was given an approval yesterday by the HP Commission for a recommendation of approval.
I'm Dana Ferguson on behalf of D. Ferguson Properties and my father who owns D. Ferguson Properties, Stephen Ferguson, asking for a special exception to use the property at 2616 North Robinson Avenue as a short-term rental. It is 2-bed, 1 bath, maximum of 4 occupants.
No one signed up to speak on this one. Is there anyone in the audience who wants to address the board on this one? Okay.
Just, again, maximum number of guests to be 4. Quiet hours from 9 p.m. to 8 a.m.
I think I had it those hours until Friday and Saturday, 10 p.m., but I can change it to accommodate 9 to 8.
Yeah, it's just a standard that we've been using.
Yep.
You can fit 3 cars in the drive.
I can fit 3. There's 38.5 feet from the front of the house to the sidewalk. That's 2 comfortably, and then there's another, 15 to 20 feet after that beyond the house.
Right. And you're okay with no on-street parking then?
Right.
And the term would be a year?
Okay.
Nope. Nothing on this one.
No. Motion to approve case number 16308 for the purpose that it meets the statutory requirements for the special exception with the following modifications. Quiet hours are from 9 p.m. to 8 a.m., 3-car maximum, no on-street parking for a term of 1 year.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Cast your votes. You're approved.
Thank you.
Item number 15, case number 16313, is an application by Alice Lawrence on behalf of Red Dirt Wealth LLC to allow home sharing located at 417 Southeast 23rd Street.
Hello, I'm Alice representing RD Wealth. We're seeking an exemption to use this property as a short-term rental. It is a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, seeking a maximum occupancy of 7 people. There is a driveway that can accommodate 2 to 3 cars. We do not parking. We requested quiet hours of 10 to 8, willing to accommodate 9 to 8 if that is the requirement.
And there's no one that signed up to speak on this application. Does anybody want to address the board on this one? Okay, none?
It's 3-bedroom, 2-bath home.
Correct.
Maximum number of guests to be 6. And you'd revise the quiet hours to 9 p.m. to 8 a.m.
Yes.
The number of vehicles,
In the driveway, 2 to 3.
yeah, it's super long, but 2, I'd be good with 2, and no on-street parking. And then the term would be 1 year.
Okay.
3 beds and two baths and 1,040 square feet.
Right, that's what I noticed. I mean, if it's got the room count, it's gonna be tight. No one signed up?
No.
Okay. Motion to approve case number 16313 for the purpose that it meets the statutory requirements for the requested special exception with the following modifications. Maximum number of people shall be 7 quiet hours from 9 p.m. to 8 a.m. for a term of 1 year.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. You're approved.
Thank you.
Item number 16, case number 16314, is an application by Timothy D. Beats on behalf of Scion Properties LLC to allow home sharing at 910 North Cape Avenue.
Good afternoon. This is a timely renewal for a special exception for home sharing. We're requesting the maximum length of 3 years. It is a 2-bedroom, 1-bath home. We request a maximum of 4 guests. I apologize, the rules that we typically have to our Airbnb are more expensive than what was attached. Based on our last appearance here, we added the quiet hours, no street parking, things like that. Those are standard rules that are applied. Unfortunately, I attached the rules that we previously applied with, but we do have those standard rules in place.
No one signed up to speak on this one. Does anybody want to address the board on this application? Okay.
So maximum number of guests to be 4.
Correct.
Your quiet hours from 9 p.m. to 8 a.m. You'd be good with that?
Correct.
The number of vehicles at park, it's 2?
Correct.
And that's gravel parking, right?
Correct.
I think it's supposed to be hard surface, so you might look into getting that hard surface?
It's been approved by the city. It's been looked into. It's what's qualified as a non-conforming driveway. It's compliant but non-conforming. Our hope is to eventually pave it. However, there's been construction going up and down. It's a dirt road next to us, and until that's fixed, it makes no sense.
Okay. Just wanted you to know. And then the term maximum would be 3-year term on the renewal.
No one signed up?
Yep.
All right. And I'm good with that. So motion to approve case number 16314 for the purpose that it meets the statutory requirements for the special exception with the following modifications. Quiet hours from 9 p.m. to 8 a.m., 2-car maximum, no on-street parking for a term of 3 years.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. You're approved.
Thank you very much.
Item number 17, case number 16317, is an application by Jordan Chambers on behalf of Gregory E. Thomas to allow home sharing at 16613 Valley Crest.
Hi, my name is Jordan Chambers. I'm here on behalf of Greg Thomas. We are making an application for a special exception for home sharing short-term rentals. The home in question is 2,500 square feet. There are 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, and a very large office that we'll be using as a bedroom as well, since it has doors, and it has built-ins along the full length of the longest wall. So at about halfway with cabinets and all the way to the ceiling with shelves. I see we will not be getting 12, so we'll abide by whatever we need to. I thought it was based on parking spaces because they do have 6 parking spaces, 2 in the garage and then 4 in the drive.
I got one signed up on this one. Ready?
Let's hear from him.
Anna Fortner.
Hi, my name is Anna Fortner. I live at 16700 Valley Crest, and I am here to oppose the measure. That specific area is at the, I know it's tough. That specific area is at a intersection that forks off and has a high amount of people parking there and traffic issues. As well, there's a cat that lives right outdoor. Yes, please. Thank you.
Sarah.
It sounds like, though, from sitting here and listening, that the parking would be limited to her driveway. I am less adverse to that, as long as there's not a huge increase in the traffic. That is also a section that is used by the Champions Driving School. Outside our neighborhood is Santa Fe High School and the Champions Driving School. They often use our route to teach their students. People who live in the neighborhood understand that, but if it sounds like a home sharing, they would probably explain to them all the issues of that area. Thank you.
Thanks. Sarah, you got to give him up.
She beat me to it, huh?
So we'll just go over the application a little bit. And what I'm going to tell you on the number of beds is that right now it's listed with 3 beds. And so that's what we go by. The office can be converted into a bedroom, but it has to be converted into a bedroom and permitted with a closet for it to count as a bedroom to meet the ordinance. So I'm going to say the maximum right now would be 7. And I want the quiet hours changed from 9 p.m. to 8 a.m.
Can I respond to the first point? I'm also a realtor, is how I met Greg, and have sold a couple of his houses previously. Based on what appraisers use in real estate, that room would meet the requirements for a bedroom with between the furniture and 2 forms of egress, and that it's built out in the same manner as the rest of the house.
So for us, for me personally, I would be in agreement, but I'd need to see pictures of that so that I could see that it had the egress, see that it had the closet space, and then conform to a bedroom.
Yep.
And I'll say this, you can, if you want, we talked about this before, to defer it for 2 weeks, get us the information, and then be heard again, if you would like.
Okay, can I have 5 seconds? Or do you want to continue going over the others?
Yeah, I mean, you can continue with that. And I agree that 2 in the garage, 4 in the drive, and then would request no on-street parking. And then the term would be 1 year.
May I sit down and show you these photos in a minute? Or does it have to?
I'd like to have them in the record.
Yeah. So we really like to have them in the record, in the application.
Okay.
So, again, it's up to you to take the 2-week deferral and just do all the application and add the documents?
Yes, please.
Okay.
All right, then I will make a motion to defer case number 16317 to the, is that 20th? Yeah, August 20th, 2026 meeting.
I'll second the deferral.
We got a motion and a second to continue this. Cast your votes.
Thank you.
See you in 2 weeks.
Item number 18, case number 16319 is an application by Amara Boucher to allow home sharing located at 10213 Jetty Court.
Good afternoon. My name is Amara Boisha. We're requesting home sharing at 10213 Jetty Court, Oklahoma City. It's a 3-bed, 2-bathroom. Garage can fit 2 cars, and the driveway also can fit 2 cars. Maximum number of people can be there is about 4. That's all. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions.
There's no one signed up to speak on this application. Does anybody want to address the board on this one? Okay, nothing.
So you want a maximum number of guests to be 4?
Yes, sir. That's all.
And would you be willing to revise the quiet hours from 9 p.m. to 8 a.m.?
Yes, sir.
And then on the vehicles, maximum would be 4, 2 in the garage, 2 in the drive. The term would be 1 year. And on this one, Sarah, can you get the rental history on it? Do you know there was a code violation? Did you know there was a code violation?
I know I did not know, but I mean, I received one, and
I think, so March 5th, there was a code violation.
Yeah. And that's why I blocked all the days till I, on Airbnb and all that stuff.
So it's been off the market since you found out about that?
Yes, sir. I never knew that, but it was in the market. Yeah.
You say 4 people or 6?
4.
Okay.
Okay, let me clarify. Is this a 3-bed, 2-bath property?
It's a 3-bed, 2-bathroom, yes.
Okay, and how large is this property? How many square
It's
feet?
1790.
Yeah, 1791.
91, okay.
But he only wants 4.
And it's a living room and a family room and 3 bedrooms, a backyard and stuff.
I don't have anybody signed up on this one. Does anyone want to address the board on this application? We got one protest.
Oh, okay.
But nobody signed up unless
Oh, the written
somebody
protest?
else. Yeah, it's a written.
And I do really hold, like, myself to high standards. I don't allow partying. I don't do any of that stuff,
Yeah, well, and I mean, I really appreciate the low number of guests that you're advertising.
Yeah, yes, sir, yeah.
Okay, Sarah Welch, Planning Department. So our third-party information doesn't show it's been rented out since February, and it's currently blocked off.
Okay.
Okay. I think we've asked about 4 people, like 3 different times. Just because usually we have people asking for more than they're allowed to have. You're asking for under.
I lived in this house for 20 years, and I'm trying to keep it for my kids. So that's why I'm trying to not abuse it and keep it in good shape.
And
that's
keep the neighbors happy.
I'm sorry?
You keep the neighbors happy.
Yeah, and I want to keep it less used. That's why Airbnb, long term, it's usually like abused and broken things and all stuff. I usually like on Airbnb, it's like 2 nights, maybe in a week, maybe. And there's really some months that we don't get anything. I want to keep it for my kids. That's mainly what it is. That's all.
Yeah, okay. Well, looking at the address, I was like, I think I lived close to you many, many years ago. So, and I did, 2 streets over.
Thank you.
I'm going to make a motion then to approve case number 16319 for the purpose that it meets the statutory requirements for the special exception with the following modifications. Quiet hours from 9 p.m. to 8 a.m., 4-car maximum to the drive to the garage, and for no on-street parking for a term of 1 year.
Thank you, sir.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. You're approved.
Thank you, John.
Item number 19, case number 16277, is a continued item of appeal of Michael McCoy, president of SOSA Neighborhood Association, from an administrative approval of certificate of approval located at 621 Northwest 6th Street.
Good afternoon. My name is Michael McCoy.
We spent a lot of time on this before.
Yes.
So I'm mainly interested in what is new or different that we didn't cover last time. So with that request, go ahead. I'm sorry, I interrupted.
We also should consider the motions.
Oh, yeah.
The 2 threshold issues that came up.
All right. Last time we had an issue raised about timeliness, jurisdiction, and aggrieved. Did I say that right?
Yeah, basically the threshold issues last time that the board discussed and decided that you would go ahead and hear the appeal was whether or not the board had jurisdiction to hear the appeal, and that was based on whether or not Mr. McCoy and the HOA were aggrieved parties. After extensive discussion, the board came to the conclusion that they are aggrieved parties and that the appeal could be heard. And there was also an issue of timeliness as far as whether or not the appeal was filed timely. Mr. McCoy and the HOA had explained that they weren't aware of the issue at the time. They couldn't timely respond to something they weren't aware of. After extensive discussion of that issue, the board decided that it was timely. There were no motions, and so our office would just recommend in hindsight that the board make motions on those specific findings and if you're going to basically overrule those objections and go ahead and hear this appeal, that we do that now at the beginning of this portion. And just to have on the record that those were considered, the board as a whole overruled those objections and are going to go ahead, or is going to go ahead and hear the appeal, if that makes sense.
Actually, it does. All right. Oh, I'm sorry. That's yours. All right. Doesn't matter which order we take those.
Did you get that?
Okay.
So are we making a motion then first that so a motion to consider the neighborhood association an aggrieved party?
That's fine.
I think that's a motion.
Okay.
Second.
I'll second the motion.
Okay. This is limited to just determining that the appellant is an aggrieved party, and that's the motion. We've got a motion and a second.
Sorry about that.
There we go. Cast your votes. Okay. The other issue was timeliness.
Timeliness as far as whether or not the appeal was filed in time.
And that's my memory is what I thought last time. Okay.
Passes.
Motion to determine.
All right, so motion now to determine that the appeal was a timely appeal.
Yes. Second?
I'll second.
Okay, motion and a second. Cast your votes. Okay. We miss anything else?
No, I believe that's it.
Okay.
Jurisdiction, we took care of that.
Jurisdiction, yeah, based on aggrieved party status and then timeliness.
Okay. Sorry, your turn now.
I think we were second to last time. I appreciate the opportunity, and I will tell you what I do know. When I left the last meeting, the comment was, we are going to push this until we have additional information from the city. And that time span between that meeting and now, a meeting was initiated where we had counselor, and we had another counselor from City of Oklahoma City. We had representatives of Development Services. We also had representatives from Oklahoma City Planning Department. And we went through the items, the facts that have been put on the table, and outlined our approach, why we were approaching that way, and then basically left it up to the city to give me guidance as to what their decision was going to be and how they were going to proceed. I have not been notified of any movement in that area since that meeting. So I cannot furnish you additional information from the city. Obviously, I would request that you have asked for additional information. I have to wait on the city to provide that. And so, unable to do that today, I think the only option I would have is to ask for it to be continued until we get data back from the city.
Okay.
I think the basic ruling, basic understanding is that the reason for the appeal is because the sign permit was issued or a approval process through Oklahoma City Planning. Oklahoma City Planning approved the permit per planning requirements based upon the City of Oklahoma City making comment in the email in the data that I furnished the last time that they deemed that the building had not been vacant for a period of 2 years. I reiterated that a decision based upon building occupancy, basing it on an Oklahoma City water bill would be inappropriate and inadequate to determine the function and the usage and the occupancy of that building and explain their process. I will tell you as a sideline, the other counselor that was there looked at the data from the City of Oklahoma City, and he made the comment that it appeared that there was indeed a 2-year gap. So, again, I'm waiting on the city to approach this in a manner that they can determine how to move forward, because without that, my appeal should still stand based upon the actions of giving a sign approval to a tenant that is in non-conformance with the cottage district. And we requested in that literature that I sent the first time that the tenant occupancy be removed, and therefore it makes the building signage approval moot.
Okay. I think we got one that wants to speak.
Yeah.
Did you all receive the packets? I'm Patrick Finley. I'm the owner of 621 Northwest 6th.
Give us your name and address just for the record, please.
Patrick Finley.
Thank you.
I'm the owner of 621 Northwest 6th.
Okay, thank you.
In that packet that I prepared, when we met last June 28th, the issue before the board concerning my property located at 621 Northwest 6th Street was a sign on the building. I've since removed the sign. Please turn to Exhibit A. This is an email from Code Inspector Michael Kimbrough verifying that the sign has been removed. Then in Exhibit B, there's a photograph in front of the building where the sign shown being removed as well, just for verification. And then in the June 18th meeting, an additional issue was raised concerning whether or not the property's medical use had been discontinued because of a period of vacancy. However, prior to the June 18th meeting, the city stated that the medical use was still legally in place. Please turn to Exhibit C. This is email correspondence on April 13th, 14th, and 15th between Michael Philbrick, Chris Smith, and Scott Wise, which documents the city's position that the legal nonconforming status for medical services use did not lapse.
Okay.
So the city's position is that it did not lapse, which is what Mr. McCoy was just asking. It's right there in black and white. And then in Exhibit D, this is an email from Mr. Philbrick to me a week later, April 22nd, which states, the code enforcement superintendent, after having researched the issue, has come to the conclusion that the legal nonconforming use status of your property at 621 Northwest 6th Street did not lapse and is still legally in place. So that's the position of the city. Next, even though the city had already confirmed, this is Exhibit E. Next, even though the city had already confirmed that the medical use was still legally in place during the June 18th meeting, Mr. McCoy stated that under the South of St. Anthony's neighborhood cottage district overlay, a building that remains vacant for 2 or more years loses its medical use status, thereby questioning the city's decision. To address this issue, I researched the property's prior tenancy and obtained documentation regarding the previous medical tenant. Please turn to Exhibit E. This is a journal entry of judgment of the court regarding the previous tenants, New Directions Acute Dialysis. Under the previous owners of the building, the journal entry shows the date that the previous tenants were evicted. The court awarded immediate possession to the previous owners on February 6, 2023, and the journal entry was signed and filed on February 15, 2023. The final exhibit, Exhibit F, is the lease agreement for my property at 621 Northwest 6 between myself and First Choice Management, Inc. I would like to present the original to Mr. Voorhees for his review. I have not included copies in this packet because it is a current lease containing personal private information. The lease was signed and notarized by me on January 20th, 2025, and by Randall McLean on January 28th, 2025. The lease provides that First Choice took possession on February 1st, 2025. Exhibits E and F establish fewer than 2 years lapse between the occupancy of the previous medical use tenant and the current medical use tenant. And I have that. I have the lease right
here. How do I get the original in? I want it in the record. Can you read that?
Yeah.
Okay.
If it helps, I'll just add to the two presentations. I don't want Mr. McCoy to be burdened with a burden he does not have. I don't see him at the moment. Oh, there he is. The burden of proof, as we pointed out in the last, in the first part of this hearing, lies on the, or lies with the owner to prove. And so I guess that's what he's spoken to. As to Mr. McCoy's, so I don't want Mr. McCoy to feel burdened with that burden of proof because it actually is with the owner. And so based on this information, if the board feels like that he's met that, burden, then that'll be the board's decision. There has been a lot as far as Mr. McCoy's being advised of what's been going on. I am personally aware of at least one email that Ms. Friddle with staff has sent to him, apprising him of some limited information. But there's been a lot of work behind the scenes by staff, and there are representatives of code enforcement here, and there's representatives of development services here. If the board needs more information as far as the non-conforming use and the lapse and the investigation, there's a lot of things brought up as far as work done without permits. It's not really speaking to the non-conforming use, but if you need some information regarding those issues that were brought up at the last hearing, we do have representatives from code enforcement and development services here that were kind enough to come and make themselves available to the board if necessary.
Sir, what I'm going to ask you to do, since you don't want the original with the redact, and just get us a photocopy.
Okay, for your records?
Yeah, I
Okay.
want it in the record, but if you feel the need to redact financial, personal information,
Yeah, I mean,
please do. I saw the Post-it
Okay.
notes.
does that meet the burden of proof?
Well, we'll see when we vote. Hang on to that, so he can get it back. Okay, now I do have, unless you want to speak it.
That's all I have. I mean, the
Okay, I've got
documents- the
one
documents
person
speak for
signed up
themselves.
to speak, so let me recognize Bill Bleakley.
Good afternoon. I'm Bill Bleakley. I reside at 607 Northwest 7th Street, approximately a block away from the subject property. The issue I want to speak to is the use of the utilities as a way to negate the purpose and function of the statute that's really in play here, whether this is a continued unauthorized use under the ordinance. In Sosa, we have a good working relationship with all the businesses, or most of the businesses, I should say, in our area to deal with the broad spectrum of possible uses with regard to their being neighbors with a lot of residential property. But it's a very important thing that it be administered appropriately so that we can maintain the relationship between businesses and residents in Sosa. If there is no code basis or anything else for this determination that keeping utilities on will provide a continued use, I urge that it be disregarded in this case and eliminated from further use. We have property behind us that has been all but abandoned in its stewardship for the 10 years that I have lived in Sosa, and probably a lot longer than that. But there is a light on, and somebody is paying the utility bill. Thank God it is not a unauthorized use that would have been carried on for decades by the use of the utility argument. Thank you.
Questions, comments from the board?
I do have one question on the data that you gave us in the letter from Michael Kimbrough, and it says that you remove the sign, and then it says in order to replace the sign, all you need is to have the Board of Adjustments approval and a permit. What's that have to do with this? Nothing, right? Yeah, I mean, that's not what we're talking about today. I mean, the sign's gone, right?
Yeah,
There's still an appeal.
right.
Right, the appeal is for the approval of the sign,
The original approval.
the original approval of the sign.
I just continued because since he was requesting the burden of proof and I was able to find the previous eviction and my timeline actually came out to work within the parameters of the 2 years.
Yeah, but
Then I
the-
brought that as well so I could put the whole thing to bed and just be done with it.
Yeah, and my recollection is certain members of the board felt like, it should be limited to the sign approval, and others felt like, well, we really need to answer the question about the non-conforming use, because what's the point in the decision on the sign, which is ancillary to whether or not this is a lawful non-conforming use. And so, however you want to parse that out, but I don't disagree that the appeal is regarding a sign, which has now been taken down. But for the members that want to know about the non-conforming use, I think that was the purpose of his presentation and this information, which this is the first time I've seen it, and I guess anyone's seen it here. And there's also staff that's available to be able to speak to some of that issue if you need it.
I guess my question would be does the city take a lease? Is that considered a way to continue that non-conforming use?
Well,
is that sufficient evidence?
I think I would defer to code enforcement as far as whether or not they feel like, as part of their investigation, they felt like that's something they would take in consideration. I think they've, Chris Smith is here with code enforcement.
Looks like he's
and
gonna come
they
talk.
typically look into those things.
Good afternoon, Chris Smith, Code Enforcement Superintendent. So once we received the complaint, we investigated the issue of the non-conforming use. We currently rely on utility records to show that gap. Although there were starts and stoppages in the utility record, none of it reflected a sufficient gap for more than 2 years. As such, we lacked the probable cause to even issue a notice of violation at that point. I have not seen this lease, and I still haven't seen the lease, but I can tell you this: if it definitively showed that a lease started prior to the 2 years of cessation, that would be code enforcement's burden of proof, should the owner have been under notice of violation.
But you didn't request a lease, and it's not standard to request?
The city didn't have sufficient cause to leave a notice, so therefore we did not.
Okay. Any other questions, comments from the board?
Has the neighborhood association been provided with a copy of this packet? I think that would be my only issue. I think that my question was always the 2-year gap. But if we're going to give the appellant the opportunity to rebut and provide evidence contrary to what we've been provided, I would not feel comfortable making a judgment, although I feel like based on what I see, there's no 2-year gap. I don't feel correct in making a determination without at least affording the appellant the opportunity to be heard.
I suppose one remedy would be to defer it and give him time to review and respond if you wanted to do that.
I mean, you do. I don't need it. Oklahoma City's already said what they use as a standard, which is a utility bill. The utility bill does not show any gaps. That for me is enough. I don't expect the city of Oklahoma City to make changes to their standard for a one-off. Not for me today.
Michael, would you like
I just want to reiterate, one of the conversations that we had in the meeting with the city was really an understanding of utility bills. And as an architect, I can tell you a lease and/or utility bills have absolutely no part of the definition of occupancy or vacancy in the building codes. They are established by actual occupancy and usage of the building. The ordinance states vacancy. It doesn't say I have a legal right to use the building. It states vacancy. And the documentation that we provided clearly shows that building being vacant for over 2 years. And again, I understand the city's approach, understaffed and overworked, But the point is, the data that we furnished in December and January of 25 and 26, initiating Action Center reports, clearly showed the vacancies of the building, proof of the vacancies of the building, conversations with both the prior dialysis owner when they left, leasing agents that have gone through the building, and actual dates of Action Center reports clearly outlining a vacancy of that building. And again, I will reiterate, as an architect, the function of a lease or utility bills does not define usage or occupancy of a building. Theoretically, I could sign a lease for any building in Oklahoma City and try and attempt to continue a nonconformance when the actuality is for a year after the lease was signed, that building was vacant. And I still hold that utility bills and a lease do not demonstrate any definition of occupancy or vacancy or usage of a building. Somebody actually has to be in that building. The documentation we provided clearly showed vandalism, lack of trash, for lease signs, etc., that building was indeed vacant since the dialysis left at the end of 22. That building was not occupied until January 26. There is clearly a 2-year window of that building being vacant, no trash service, no usage of the parking lot by a tenant, and vandalism, along with conversations with the leasing agents that represented both the prior owner and this owner, saying that they signed no leases on that building. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments?
I'd like to say something.
Yeah, please.
May it please the board, my name is Peter Erdos. I live at 801 Northwest 7th. It's about a block north and 2 blocks west of this building. I was the one that felt like this was going to be a trial by ambush, and I thought it was very disingenuous of the applicant to produce a journal entry of judgment that, frankly, we were never shown, that somehow was suggestive that there was an occupant in this facility up until the time of journal entry of judgment on an eviction or foreclosure proceeding had been finalized. All that indicates is the tenant wasn't paying their rent, probably wasn't even in there, as we all witnessed when we drive by there every day, and to use utility bills as the indicator that there was occupancy is a fallacy. And the reason it's a fallacy is no commercial property owner in their right mind would let the utilities stop and run the risk that their pipes are going to freeze and burst during one of our winters, and therefore the commercial value of their property goes down hundreds of thousands of dollars if they don't spend tens of thousands of dollars jackhammering up their foundation and fixing those pipes. So to use utility bills, not only, as Mr. McCoy indicated, is not an indication, it is not even proof that there was occupancy. And even though SOSA does not have the burden of proof to show that there was not occupancy for 2 years, I think Mr. McCoy has brought forth a plethora of evidence that contradicts the statements and representations being made by the applicant. This was a vacant property. We have fought tooth and nail in SOSA to maintain the integrity of this neighborhood, which 20 years ago was nothing but empty lots, blighted buildings, crime, etc. I still deal with empty vacant lots next to my property that on a monthly basis get notices because of weeds. We have a building that's in a state of disrepair. We take pride in the fact that we've made this area a livable place that the city could be proud of. And we do not appreciate when someone tries to take advantage of it and violate what's the clear codes of the cottage district. And a medical clinic that stood empty for 2 years that attracted vandals, vagrants, etc., is not something that should be grandfathered in and continued because the building owner didn't keep it up. And for that reason, I respectfully request that you deny this application for a medical facility. I don't think it would withstand a legal challenge, and I hope we don't have to come to that. Thank you.
It is not vacant now, and it's got an occupant in it. So it's no longer vacant, and it's not, I don't understand. And I've given the burden of proof 2 different ways. The city says that it's in use, and my lease says it's in use and hasn't lapsed the 2 years. So I don't know what other burden I can get, or what other proof I could give. I can't prove a negative other than what I actually have.
Any other questions, comments from the board? Are we ready for a motion? Pardon? One more. Come on up.
If the issue was abandonment of property, the utilities would be relevant. With regard to non-conforming use occupancy, I would continue to argue that it's not relevant. Does this board have the ability to refer it back to the UDC or some other body for a determination of this issue, since it kind of appears to be determinative?
I think we can affirm, reverse, or modify, but we can't send it back. Is that correct?
Who would you send it back to?
The city.
Staff?
Yeah.
To review?
And it goes.
The UDCA.
Yeah, well, I mean, we did that, we did that the last time.
Already.
So, I mean, if the board feels like they need more information, I think they could defer that again. But I think what might be helpful is to clarify and crystallize exactly what the board needs to know, so that staff can answer that or those questions specifically, so that the board can come to a conclusion.
And just as a reminder to the board, this was an administrative approval by staff. It was not an approval by the design commission. I've put it up in front of you.
Yeah, I'm sorry, maybe I should have clarified that, because it
was staff administratively approved.
Yes, it was, yeah, the commission did not approve. There was no group that approved it. It was staff administratively.
And for me, staff did their diligence. They repeatedly said this non-conforming use is still legally non-conformance. And hence the sign permit was then issued.
And I'm sorry, to be clear, there was no sign permit issued. This was a certificate of approval for a sign with a permit that would have to follow.
So they got a certificate of approval.
And so please clarify. So the appeal is regarding the approval of the sign, and the sign that was put up has now been taken down. Is that correct?
So there never was a sign permit?
They didn't, whoever they hired to put up the sign either didn't file for the permit and then put it up. It was Butner Brothers, and I had nothing to do with that. That was my tenant that ordered the sign.
Yeah.
And they put it up, I guess, without a permit, and that's what initiated this whole situation. And it initially isn't about, I didn't have to have the burden of proof, since we're only here for a sign, but I figured I would go above and beyond just to put the whole thing to bed and go ahead and bring the lease and the city and have all the emails from the city stating that the legal non-conforming use is still.
What is the definition of non-conforming use?
I had a feeling I was going to be asked that. So in the code, nonconformity, lot structures, uses of land and structures, and characteristics of uses which are prohibited under the current terms of this chapter. Nonconformities are considered legally nonconforming if they were lawfully established prior to adoption of this chapter and not otherwise classified as noncomplying. Nonconformities are considered illegal if they were not lawfully established prior to adoption of this chapter and shall not become lawful by virtue of its enactment. I do not see where the code specifically defines when a use begins and ends, whether or not, I just don't see the specific specificity that maybe the board needs, clearly defined in the code.
And it seems to me that the city of Oklahoma City uses the utility bill to decide whether it's...
Well, code enforcement that's tasked with investigating it, has made that determination.
And on multiple occasions, they went to the property and then closed the case.
That's my understanding.
Yes, so the original complaint was about the continuation of the legal nonconforming use. We investigated that, found no merit or found no cause of the city to proceed with notice of violation. The notice of violation we did leave was for the erection of the sign without a certificate of approval and without a sign permit. So that's where the only notice of violation that we had active was to address that issue, not the non-conforming use of the building, which the CA case has been closed.
But if we vote today to just let it go because the sign's no longer there, applicant can then go just apply for the appropriate paperwork, come back here, get the appropriate variance. And by that, we've deemed the fact that the non-conforming use issue is kind of moot. Is that what I'm seeing it?
Yes, procedurally, it would be code enforcement's opinion that the non-conforming use is legal to persist. And as such, they should be afforded all other measures as allowed by code. In this particular instance, his tenant would just have to go through the CA approval process with the commission, and then once approved, obtain a permit from Development Services, and they'd be free to erect the sign.
So we have a lease that was dated 2 weeks prior to that 2-year period of where the prior tenant got evicted. The argument has been made that it's not like the tenant got evicted in a matter of 2 weeks. So the tenant was gone at some point, let's say he was 6 months and was not using that property for that purpose. But what we're saying is that it doesn't matter. He was evicted. We're not considering that 6-month gap to where that property is not actually used for a medical purpose. I just don't understand. For me, it's hard to make a decision if I can't be given a good definition of when a non-conforming use starts and stops. So to me, it's not.
And that's the issue that the city faces in proving this type of allegation, right? This is why we rely on the utility records to show. Obviously, there's no argument to be made if I look at the utility record and it hasn't had active utilities for a period of 2.5 years, right? No one can logically say that we've occupied the structure and it's non-conforming use for more than that time, because you can't legally occupy a structure without utility. So that's why we rely on the utility records to even begin the investigation of proving the non-conforming use. So we lacked burden of proof and probable cause to even leave a notice of violation. In the absence of a notice of violation, there's no obligation from the applicant to prove the burden that the non-conforming use is allowed to persist. Their statement of we've occupied it, or the vacancy or cessation of use has not lapsed a period of longer than 2 years.
So it could be that someone says, hey, I no longer want to operate this business. Go 5 years, I just pay the utilities. And for that 5 years, even though it's not been actually used for medical purposes, because I have a utility that keeps the lights on and the air on, that's sufficient to show that my non-conforming use is allowed to go on?
Well, it may or may not be. We utilize and leverage those utility records to establish our probable cause to even begin the investigation. In the absence of probable cause, we do not begin an investigation. That's why we rendered the opinion that because of the utility records, even though there were starts and stops on the utility record, none of those starts and stops lasted for a period longer than 2 years. So every other allegation is just a snapshot in time, right? I have to physically prove in a court of law beyond a reasonable doubt that this gentleman's nonconforming use ceased for a period of longer than 2 years. Without an active or without a utility record showing that, we really have no other investigative tool that definitively proves that. And as such, that's why we rendered the opinion that the nonconforming use should be permitted to continue. We have one.
I would like to add something to that.
Okay, hang on just a second. Chris, are you finished?
At the board's will here.
Question? Okay. Go ahead, Michael.
The only thing I would add is that you say without justification. And the problem is there were multiple action center issues created with the city of Oklahoma City starting in December of '23. So I say that there were action elements that the city could have investigated, and they determined vandalism, trash issues, etc., of actual issues sent to the city of Oklahoma City. Those researched elements would have shown clearly that that building has been vacant. There were areas of justification for research, and again, I understand that, relying on utility bills, that's way too many open holes. When there was actual documentation furnished to the city of Oklahoma City outlining a building in disrepair and vacant.
Is there anything else from the board? Because I think we're ready for a motion. Somebody want to take a stab at a motion?
I guess I'm going to be, my understanding of, I just don't know. For me, non-conforming use is not, I can't do a good start-stop date. And the fact that we have almost a 2-year gap between the lease and the eviction of the prior tenant, that there's only a 2-week gap. And I know that tenant did not get evicted 2 weeks before. I think that you've got the possibility of having a 2-year of non-conforming use, and I just can't get past that.
But the appeal is about the sign, not the non-conforming use. So for me, I mean, I'll make a motion if you want and see where we are, but
That's fine.
Yeah. Take a stab
it's
at
the
it.
sign. So I will make a motion to recommend denial of the appeal based on,
I think it would be affirming the decision of the
Okay.
city official, I think, which.
denying the appeal to affirm the city officials.
Okay.
It's affirming the action of the city. You either affirm, reverse, or modify the decision of the city official, right? So, which in effect,
Would deny the appeal.
yes.
Okay.
So I will make a motion to affirm the city's decision on case number 16277.
I'll second.
Okay. Motion and a second to effectively deny the appeal, finding that the actions of the city were affirmed. Are affirmed. Did I say that right?
I actually hit.
Or-
Can you change that?
I'm sorry.
I hit that. Okay, here we go.
Oh, okay, okay. So if you vote yes, I'm sorry, I got it now. If you vote yay on this motion, you are affirming the city's decision that the sign permit was proper because the non-conforming use did not lapse, basically. I mean, really, you're just, well, you're affirming the city, you're affirming the city official, which it was, we had a application for a certificate of approval that was administratively approved by city staff. The appeal is saying that that decision was wrong. So you would be, by voting yes on this motion,
Okay.
you would be affirming the city official's decision to approve the certificate of appropriateness for the sign. Does that make sense?
I think, yeah.
Makes sense to me, I get it.
Yeah, he moved and I just, my finger hit it too quickly.
Are we clear on the motion?
Yes.
Okay. If we need to fix something electronically or do a verbal vote, we can do that.
Well, I mean, I'm okay with
Because
it.
I think Don made the motion,
But Don
Emily
made
Kay.
the motion, but my finger hit the machine before. It hit it as moving rather than seconding. There we go. So she can,
There we go.
okay, now we're back to, okay, so Don, you can move. And then,
All right.
okay, there we go.
There we go.
Now,
Now we've got a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Okay. City is affirmed.
Yeah.
Okay, we're into item number 20, case number 16301, appeal by Rena Polofsky from the decision of the HP Commission on June 3rd, 2026, on case number HPCA 26-00043, located at 824 Northwest 16th Street.
It's in this pile, I think. Or wait, who's got his
I do.
original? Oh, there you go. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry, were you just?
Go ahead.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, good afternoon. My name's Rena Polofsky, and I'm here today representing myself and the 9 other Mesta Park property owners in the 800 block of Northwest 16th Street. Listed on our grounds for the grounds for appeal document. As you know, we're appealing the June 3rd decision by the Historic Preservation Commission regarding the construction of a new garage at 824 Northwest 16th Street. My husband Stan and I are the east abutting property owners, and the west abutting property owners are also appellants in this case. First, I think it's important to point out that the other appellants and I fully believe that the property owners, Ryan and Ashley Fogel, have every right to build a functional garage on their property. And I think it's safe to say that probably everyone in this room would agree that Ryan Fogel has submitted an attractive garage design. We also acknowledge that modifications to historic garage designs are sometimes necessary to improve the functionality of a replacement structure. None of that is in question today. What is in question is whether Ryan's garage design is compliant with our current historic preservation standards. We believe that it is not. And whether the HP Commission diligently used those standards as the basis for its approval We believe that it did not. And whether the HP Commission's approval was valid, we believe that it was not. These are the things I hope to prove to you today. I want to stress that our intention in this appeal is not to embarrass anyone or to make anyone look bad. However, that said, it is necessary for me to speak freely about our grounds for this appeal, so I may unintentionally ruffle a few feathers. We're not adversaries of the city. On the contrary, several of us have spent years serving the city in various capacities. I personally served as the Mesta Park Historic Preservation Review Committee Chair for over a decade, and I interacted regularly during that time with the Mesta Park residents, the HP staff, and the HP Commission to support a fair review process for everyone. The other appellants and I believe strongly in our city's commitment to historic preservation efforts because we know firsthand how transformative historic preservation ordinances have been for the revitalization of Mesta Park and other historic preservation districts. Our primary intention here today is to ensure a consistent, equitable historic preservation review process and to hold the HP Commission to account for a decision that is not compliant with the very standards and guidelines it's been entrusted to uphold. Now, I promise that I will do my best to keep things moving at a good clip, but I do have a lot to cover. So please bear with me as I attempt to explain our 5 grounds for this appeal. And to do that, I have to lay some groundwork. To get started, I'd like to define 4 terms I'll be using in this discussion. The first is this document. It's officially called the Oklahoma City Historic Preservation Design and Sustainability Standards and Guidelines, which I think we can agree is a mouthful. This is the HP Bible, if you will, and as you know, it's been adopted in its entirety by the City of Oklahoma City and our municipal code as the primary document that involves all things HP. You'll often hear it referred to as the guidelines, which, as I'll discuss later, has led to some significant misunderstandings and misconceptions. So today I'll be referring to this document as the standards and guidelines. And hopefully that terminology will catch on. As you can see, the document is lengthy and it could easily overwhelm us before we even get started. But thankfully, it provides a very specific instructions on the first couple of pages in section 1.3 called How to Use These Standards and Guidelines. I'll direct you to my Exhibit B for a screenshot of section 1.3 and a very important black box in the center of the page that defines 2 foundational words, standards and guidelines. And I'll just show you the black box that's here in the center of the page. It reads, I quote, "A standard is a rule or principle that is used as a basis for judgment, and a guideline is a policy or recommended approach. As applied in this document, a standard is established by mandatory terms such as shall or will, and guidelines are established by permissive terms such as should or may," end quote. These 2 definitions are especially important in my discussion today. I particularly want to reiterate that these definitions appear inside a bold black box in the center of the page, and this is the only such black box in the entire document. And it highlights the importance of these definitions and establishes them as the foundational concepts that the rest of the HP process is built on. These 2 terms, standards and guidelines, are clearly not synonymous in this document, and I understand them to differ significantly in the eyes of the law. This is super important because I hope to show you today that these 2 terms, standards and guidelines, are repeatedly and systemically conflated on every level of the HP review process, from neighborhood residents, including myself in times past, to staff, to the HP Commission, and as you'll see later, even to the official response to this appeal. It is this systemic conflation of these 2 terms that we believe led the HP staff and the HP Commission astray in their interpretive and deliberative processes in this case. I'll provide evidence of this systemic error later. The last term to define is the word approximate, which is also important in this case, but unfortunately this time the standards and guidelines don't provide us with a contextual definition the way it did for the words standards and guidelines, which means that the definition defaults to the standard English language definition, meaning close to or nearly the same as. I think we all have an idea in our minds of what to expect when something is approximately the same as something else. For example, I think everyone would say that I, at 5'6", 110 pounds, is approximately the same as someone who's 5'7", 120 pounds. But I challenge you to find a person on earth who'd say I'm approximately the same size as our tallest Thunder player, Chet Holmgren, who is 7'1" and 220 pounds. Chet is around 28% taller than I am and 100% heavier. Anyone claiming that we're approximately the same size would simply have no credibility. So I want you to remember the word approximate is a key word that we'll encounter later. As I pointed out, the standards and guidelines is a lengthy, rather intimidating looking document, but now that our foundational definitions of standards versus guidelines are firmly in place, it becomes much easier to navigate. In this case, we need go no further than section 4.4, called garages, to instruct us on how to handle new construction to replace historic garages that have been lost to neglect and disrepair. You'll find section 4.4 in Exhibit U in your packet. Section 4.4 includes a list called Actions That Require Administrative Review. And on that list are 11 individual items listed in order from 4.4.3 to 4.4.13. Surprisingly, the standards and guidelines are not boldly or obviously differentiated on this list, but you'll find it's hard to tell which one is which. However, if you read the language carefully, you'll find that only one of them, number 445, uses the word shall, which you've been instructed earlier characterizes it as mandatory and distinguishes it as a standard. I've highlighted that word in red in your Exhibit U. All the other individual items of the list use the discretionary words may or should that we learned identify them as discretionary guidelines. It follows then that until the mandatory standard 445 is met, the discretionary guidelines listed in that section are not applicable because guidelines are subordinate to standards. It also follows that discretionary guidelines can in no way be used as the basis to override or interpret a mandatory standard. Guidelines are simply used after the mandatory standards have been met and in cases where we don't have sufficient evidence from photographs or other documentation of what the original structure looked like, and we're having to navigate through what would be considered appropriate without such documentation to work with. Okay, so now that those terms are defined, I'll move on to our specific grounds for this appeal, which I'm hopeful that you've had a chance to review in your packets, along with the supporting documents numbered A through U. I won't actually be referring to all of these exhibits during this discussion, but they all provide supporting, objective evidence for this appeal. We've appealed this case on 5 specific grounds, and we contend that the HP Commission, 1, rendered a decision that was not compliant with Standard 445 without sufficient grounds for doing so. 2, that the Commission made and passed a motion that was incorrectly structured, incomplete, and inconsistent with their own bylaws. 3, that the Commission failed to provide the 3-part detailed findings for unique circumstances required by the municipal code to bypass a mandatory standard. 4, that the Commission approved a garage design with dimensions that invalidated the unique circumstance they identified in their approved motion. 5, that they rendered a judgment based on personal opinion and errors of fact that is, rather than establish standards, the official case record, or objective evidence of any kind. I'll go through each one of these items as briefly as I can, but they do require some explanation. Grounds number one is that the HP Commission rendered a decision that was non-compliant with mandatory standard 445. I mentioned standard 445 in the garages section earlier, and I pointed out that it's defined as a standard because it uses the word shall. As a reminder, the garages section appears in Exhibit U of your packet. Standard 445 reads as follows, quote, "Construction of a replacement garage shall approximate the original configuration, form, massing, style, placement, and details of the former garage as described by photographic or other documentation." I told you that we would encounter the word approximate, and you'll recall that our working definition is nearly the same as. In this case, the official record contains irrefutable documentation via Sanborn maps, photographs, and official staff reports, which document that the form and massing of the former original structure was a one-story, flat-roofed auto house with a height of approximately 9 to 10 feet. This height is determined by a similar structure right next door on my property. There are photos of my original garage in Exhibits P and Q. So our complaint number one is that the HP Commission approved a 1.5-story gable roof garage design with a dormer that doubles the vertical massing and replaces the form of the original flat-roofed auto house as definitively documented in the official record. This approval fails to comply with 2 of the 6 mandatory architectural elements described in Standard 445. Specifically, 1, form, which changes it from a flat roof to a gable roof with a dormer, and 2, the massing that doubles the vertical volume from 9 to 10 feet tall to 18 feet 3 inches tall, and changing it from a 1-story to a 1.5-story structure. As an aside, I've provided you with Exhibit N for an informal but reproducible and objective AI analysis of compliance, which concludes that this proposal does not comply with Standard 445. That's not my opinion. Number 2 of our grounds for appeal is that the HP Commission made and passed a motion that was incorrectly structured, incomplete, and inconsistent with their own bylaws. I'll direct your attention to Exhibit C in your packets. This exhibit has 4 parts, C1, C2, C3, and C4, which allow you to conduct a comparison. C1 is the verbatim motion that was articulated on the floor during the June 3rd meeting, which invoked the unique circumstances provision. C2 is the HP Commission's bylaws regarding the required language to be used when making a motion involving the unique circumstances provision. C3 is the official published hearing minutes, and C4 is the Oklahoma City Municipal Code's unique circumstances provision. You'll see that the verbal motion approved on the floor, Exhibit C1, did not include the language required for a motion for unique circumstances as laid out in the HP Commission's bylaws. And yet this motion was allowed to stand and be approved without any correction or modification by the municipal councilor or the other commissioners. Again, you can review these bylaws in Exhibit C2. And surprisingly, the official published hearing minutes in Exhibit C3 do not accurately reflect that reality. In fact, the official HP Commission hearing minutes inserted generic boilerplate language regarding unique circumstances into the case record after the fact that was not articulated in the approved verbal motion on the floor. I've highlighted in yellow the language that did not occur at the June 3rd meeting in Exhibit C3. So our complaint number 2 is that inserting a generic boilerplate motion into the official HP Commission meeting minutes after the fact, as if it occurred during the actual meeting itself, created a false record of the proceedings, and we believe that it should be expunged from the permanent case file. Consequently, because the verbal motion lacked the mandatory procedural findings required by the HP Commission bylaws, we believe the approved certificate of appropriateness to be potentially void on procedural grounds. Number 3 of our grounds for appeal is that the HP Commission failed to provide the 3-part detailed findings for unique circumstances required by the Oklahoma City Municipal Code to bypass a mandatory standard. It's important to note here that our municipal code does not grant the HP Commission unlimited discretionary authority. If it did, we wouldn't need the standards and guidelines at all. Instead, it acknowledges that the Commission is allowed to bypass standards and guidelines in certain unique circumstances. However, the unique circumstances provision states that in order to override the established standards and guidelines, the HP Commission must first issue what they call detailed findings, and those detailed findings must include all 3 of the following. 1, that the proposed work is historically appropriate, and 2, that the proposed work is consistent with the spirit and intent of the standards and guidelines, and 3, that the proposed work will not adversely affect the historic character of the property or the integrity of the historic district. For comparison, I'll read the motion that was made and passed on the floor verbatim. Quote, I move approval with the specific findings in the staff report and with the unique circumstance that the garage that was there, torn down, it's not quite fair to ask them to put exactly that back. It's small and is not appropriately sized for modern day vehicles and needs, and it's currently not a garage there, and what the applicant is proposing is historically appropriate. End quote. Now, clearly, this motion fails to provide the detailed findings required in the municipal code that I just read. Detailed findings would need to include how it is historically appropriate to change the massing and form of the original garage design from representing the beginning of the city's automotive era, AKA an auto house, and replacing it with a design reminiscent of the horse and buggy era that preceded it, AKA a carriage house with a gable roof and a window. Simply declaring that, quote, what the applicant is proposing is historically appropriate is a generic statement lacking in detail, and it expresses a personal opinion. It's not based on any objective evidence. Such personal opinions and generic statements do not constitute detailed findings, and they are not recognized as acceptable forms of documentation as described in the Standards and Guidelines section 1.9, which you can see in Exhibit F in your packet. Additionally, the approved motion entirely omitted determinations regarding whether it's consistent with the spirit and the intent of the Standards and Guidelines, or whether it will adversely affect the historic character of the property or the integrity of the historic district. Again, that's in Exhibit C1. The staff report findings referenced in the motion, which you'll find in Exhibit D, did not address any of these specific requirements and cannot be used as a substitute or a stand-in for the detailed findings required by the municipal code. In addition, the approved verbal motion I just read you incorporated, quote, the specific findings of the staff report. However, the referenced staff report contained a critical error of terminology by referring to Standard 445 as Guideline 445 in the considerations section of the report. As I mentioned in my introductory remarks, this sort of conflation is systemic, and here is an example of that conflation on the staff level. By mischaracterizing a mandatory standard as an optional or discretionary guideline, the staff introduced an error that we believe fatally contaminated the commissioner's entire interpretive and deliberative process. Again, you can see that section of the staff report in Exhibit E. And just FYI, I did contact staff as well as the municipal counselor's office prior to the June 3rd meeting to make them aware of this error in the staff report, and I requested that the error be corrected in the record before the meeting, but no correction occurred. Now, even if you accept the staff reports with this error, which, as I've said, we do not accept, the staff report's specific findings, number 1, number 3, number 4, and number 5, incorporated in the approved motion, all contradict approval. For these reasons, the staff report recommended a continuance with the specific finding that additional information is required from the applicant in order to determine whether the action requested is consistent with all relevant standards and guidelines and are in compliance with the relevant sections of the municipal code, which is so the HP Commission chose to ignore this staff recommendation, which is their right to do, and they chose to approve a design without gathering that additional information about compliance. Therefore, our complaint number 3 is that the HP Commission approved a motion, that the HP Commission's approved motion incorporated staff findings that directly contradicted the approval and relied on a staff report that contained a critical error of terminology that contaminated accurate deliberation. Furthermore, the HP Commission substituted personal opinions and generic declarations of historic appropriateness for the detailed findings required to invoke a unique circumstance. So because no unique circumstances were factually established in the record, we contend that the HP Commission lacked the grounds to override Standard 445. Pardon me while I take a little sip of water here. Our grounds for appeal number 4 is that the HP Commission approved a garage design with dimensions that invalidated the identified unique circumstance. I've just shown you that the unique circumstances were not factually established in the record, which we believe is enough to reverse the approval for this garage. But in addition, the HP Commission's identified unique circumstance is not supported by the facts. The approved motion claimed that the original structure was, quote, small, not appropriately sized for modern vehicles and needs, which was Exhibit C3. How then is it that the approved garage walls actually decrease the interior vertical clearance for modern vehicles compared with the original structure? I'll remind you that the original garage had 9 to 10 foot walls in the interior space, and the new approved design has 8 foot 5 inch walls in the interior space. You can see this in Exhibit G. I think it's safe to say that Ryan Fogel would not have proposed 8 foot 5 inch walls if he didn't feel that this height was sufficient to accommodate his modern vehicles and needs. So our complaint number 4 is that the physical dimensions of the garage walls in the approved plans directly contradict and therefore invalidate the stated reason for granting a unique circumstance. The HP Commission therefore approved an exemption to solve a problem, vehicle size and modern needs, while simultaneously approving a design that reduces vertical clearance for vehicles from 9 to 10 feet high to 8 feet 5 inches high. Our last grounds for appeal, number 5, is that the HP Commission rendered a judgment based on personal opinion and errors of fact rather than established standards, the official case record, or any objective evidence. I've provided you with written unofficial transcripts of the HP Commission hearings held on May 6th and June 3rd, which you'll find in Exhibits H and L. But since it's a bit much to view the entire transcripts, if you move on to Exhibit J, you'll find excerpts of these transcripts that record individual commissioners' statements of subjective opinion that appeared to determine the final judgment, but that were unsupported by the official case record or official documentation. Each statement was contradicted by the standards and guidelines, as well as other objective evidence, like Sanborn maps, photographs, the staff report, and English language definitions. But all this evidence was disregarded in determining the final approval. Of course, we know that the commissioners are free to express their opinions during the discussion of any case. The problems arise when personal opinions are the basis for the final judgment, rather than relying on established standards as the basis for the judgment, regardless of their personal opinions, as they're instructed to do in section 1.3 that we heard earlier. When this happens, the standards are effectively rewritten on the fly without going through the proper legal process. And we believe this is what happened in this case. For example, one commissioner's statement expressed the intention to selectively ignore the standards in order to, quote, move forward with something that's a little more compatible with this year and the needs of the people living in these homes and caring for them, end quote. Another opinion expressed was that the original structure documented in photographs could not have been used as a garage, despite definitive, objective documentation on all the Sanborn maps that designated the structure as an auto house, just like other auto houses on the block that were identified on the Sanborn map. And yet another opinion concluded that the proposed garage met the threshold for approximation of the original structure, despite the fact that the proposed garage literally doubles the height of the original auto house. This statement that the proposal approximates the original is not based on any standard definition of the word approximate, and therefore lacks credibility. You'll recall that no one on earth would say that my size approximates that of Chet Holmgren's, but yet Chet is only 28% taller than I am, whereas this proposed garage is 100% taller than the original. This does not meet the threshold for the concept to approximate. However, if it can be proven otherwise with objective standards and definitions, we welcome such evidence. So our complaint number 5 is that the HP Commission used unsupported opinions rather than mandated standards or objective evidence as the basis for their judgment. So based on these 5 grounds for appeal and our specific complaints that I presented here today, the other appellants and I respectfully request that this board overturn and vacate the HP Commission's approval of the CA application. To summarize, we request this relief on the grounds that the Commission's decision is unsupported by substantial evidence, procedurally defective, and potentially contrary to law, specifically because the approved design violates the mandatory architectural form and massing requirements of Standard 445. The verbal motion failed to meet procedural requirements, and the official minutes were improperly altered after the fact to insert language that did not occur at the meeting. The 3-part detailed findings required to invoke unique circumstances provision were not satisfied. The dimensions of the approved plans directly invalidated the unique circumstances used to justify the exemption. And the decision was driven by undocumented subjective opinions and explicit errors of fact that directly contradict the official record. I'll conclude by sharing a couple of comments from the May 6th HP Commission meeting made by one of the commissioners during the first discussion in this case, but who was not present for the June 3rd meeting when the votes were cast. In reference to whether 1.5 or 2-story garages should be approved when the Sanborn maps show that the original structure was 1 story, the commissioner made the following remarks regarding this case. Quote, the Sanborn map reflects a 1-story garage on this. I mean, I just really think that we need to get to a point where we have consistent views. Or not consistent views, but consistent messaging on this issue. And if we're not going to follow the guidelines, if the guidelines are just going to go out the door, then what are we doing here? I mean, we put staff in a position to not really know. The commissioner goes on to say, quote, I think we are doing a very big disservice whenever we are approving 1.5-story garages, 2-story garages, that from the reading of the guidelines should never be approved except in unique circumstances. Earlier, the commissioner had said, quote, I know that we talk about circumstances and things like that, but it's unique circumstances. If something occurs 3 times within a block, I don't look at that as being unique. Unique means something highly different from any other thing, in my view, end quote. Now, these comments make it clear that this case is not the only one in which these issues have come up. We as appellants share this commissioner's desire for consistency and predictability and the predictable use of the standards and guidelines in the decisions that are coming down from the HP Commission. We know that this is what builds trust and confidence within the HP districts. Without consistent decisions, residents believe, and rightfully so, that decisions are arbitrary and aren't based on anything other than random luck of the draw, which ends up undermining HP efforts across our city. I told the HP Commission during the June 3rd meeting that this case represents a true test of the relevance of our HP standards and guidelines, and really the very purpose of the HP Commission itself. As we've seen in this case, the original garage design is known, photographic documentation is on record, the Sanborn map is validation, and Standard 445 mandates compliance. If the HP Commission is allowed to selectively ignore the standards and guidelines or use the unique circumstances provision as a kind of free pass to approve projects that don't align with their own personal opinions, and they then base their decisions on those opinions versus objective evidence and established standards, then we believe that the standards and guidelines and the HP Commission itself and the HP Commission have failed the test, and as a result, very well may have lost their relevance. We ask that you help get this review back on track, this review process back on track. So I thank you all for your time and patience and attention. I'll do my best to answer any questions you have for me.
Anything from the board? Okay, thank you. Got one person signed up to speak. Is David Box here?
Good afternoon, David Box, 525 Northwest 11th Street. I'm here today on behalf of the appellee, who is the property owner and the one that was the applicant at the HP Commission. This is a unique position for me to be in. In fact, it could be the first time that I stand at this podium asking you to uphold the decision of the HP Commission. As this board is undoubtedly painfully aware, almost every time you see me on an HP appeal, it is because the HP Commission has denied a case. And in fact, typically the fights in HP on garages have been two-story garages. This is the first fight that I at least have been a part of in which a one-story, here 1.5, was fought to this level. The 1.5 or 1 to 2 story is typically where the fights are. We have submitted a response to the AI-generated notice of appeal filed by the appellant. In trying to distill their arguments, it seems like the arguments are really grounded in a disagreement with the result, which I totally understand. But to attack that disagreement with the result, they take aim at the volunteers of the HP Commission and the wording that they used. There's not a lot of substantive argument made by the appellant as to why this violates the guidelines, other than perhaps a disagreement as it relates to what the word approximate means. Now, it's a clever use of her height compared to Chet Holmgren, but the word approximate is by its nature subjective. The reason that we have an HP Commission is because they are the ones that we have tasked with discretionary review. It's worth noting this was approved unanimously by HP. So if we look through the staff report from the HP Commission, there's a handful of things that I think are instructive. On page 3 of 9 of the HP staff report, the staff goes through and says the proposed garage approximates the placement, style, detail, and materials of the historic garage as viewed from the street. The proposed garage utilizes a similar footprint and orientation to the historic garage and maintains the same special relationship to the house, the street, and the neighboring properties. So it's important that we look to that guideline that we have. Yes, it says shall, but then it follows up shall by using the word approximate. if they really intended, they being the city council with the ordinance, intended it to be hard and fast and absolute, it would have said the replacement garage shall be the same height of the previous garage. It shall be the same square footage. Instead, in 1969, when we created an HP ordinance, undoubtedly the city leaders at that time knew there would be some element of discretion that would have to be accommodated to the HP Commission because times change. We don't have horse and buggies. We now drive cars. And in fact, some people drive big cars that require bigger garages than they would have needed in 1903. I happen to live in Heritage Hills, okay? Our garage is a 2-story garage that has very wide bays because the people that built that had very big trucks. There's no way it approximates there, but the HP Commission has discretion to find unique circumstances, to find specific findings, to allow for things that they believe are historically appropriate. Moving on in the staff report, staff tells us that the proposed garage remains secondary to the primary dwelling. That's an important piece. The garages have to remain secondary. The main structure has to be the focus of the lot, and the garages have to be a complementary piece. And oftentimes, the fight is when you have 2-story garages or really large secondary structures, you're taking away from the main structure, and it's no longer complementary. Here, we absolutely remain secondary to the primary structure. Staff then says the proposed garage is reflective of the property's development and is modest in regard to its materials and architectural details. And finally, I think perhaps the most important piece of staff's analysis is in discussing going from I think what was an 8-foot, flat roof, what was called an auto house at the time, to this 1.5-story, it says, a reasonable expectation of a garage with a roof form that will shed snow and rain and accommodate 2 modern parking spaces likely includes some increase in height over that of most historic flat roof 1-story garages of the area. So she talked a lot about consistency in decision making. That's frankly pretty hard in an historic district when you have vastly different, architectural styles, and each street's a little different. In our response, we say, this is from the guidelines, in each case, the HPC will conduct its review and make its decision based on the merits of that particular case. Consistency in decision-making is achieved by individual consideration of the history associated with each property. So each property is unique and has to be viewed uniquely. The question as to what is historically appropriate and historically accurate is vested with the HP Commission. And in this matter, HP unanimously decided that it was. I don't know that it's worth a lot of our time, but if you look at the motion, I don't know that, I stand at this podium in front of all the various boards and commissions. I don't know that it's fair to think that everyone that makes motions on Tuesdays and Wednesdays and Thursday has to be some pure legal form and correct. You guys, HP, council, everyone's doing their best to achieve a result, and if they misspeak, I don't know that that invalidates what their intent was. The HP on this application believed that there were unique circumstances warranting approval of this structure. And what they said, similar to the way your staff reports are, if you look at your staff reports on, say, variance cases, it has boilerplate language that you find that the statutory conditions were met. It doesn't happen as much with Planning Commission, but your staff reports for variances has that boilerplate language. So the motion was made, and it says with the specific findings, and the specific findings were outlined, and they added the unique circumstance. Now, Ms. Friddle was able to rearrange some things and is still here with us, so I'm grateful, because I've never known there to be some procedural requirement where boxes had to be checked to get to the unique circumstance. If you watch HP commissions or appear at them, it's often that the HP commission in their vote finds unique circumstances. There's not some procedural motion or procedural checklist that has to happen before they're able to then get to this unique circumstance. It's common practice within their discretion to come up with unique circumstances. Those unique circumstances are that the proposed work is historically under her theory, you have to make these to get there. One, historically appropriate. Well, by making a motion to approve and approving the structure, in that action, they are telling us that, in their opinion, as HP members, this application is historically appropriate. Two, that the work is consistent with the spirit and intent of the standards and guidelines. Again, pursuant to their motion and the vote, baked into that is a finding that it's consistent with the spirit and intent of the standards and guidelines. There are plenty of times where HP Commission denies cases, and when they deny cases, they're doing the opposite. They are making a finding that they don't believe it's historically appropriate, they don't believe it's consistent with the spirit and intent of the standards and guidelines. Here, that's not the case. And finally, the third is that the work will not adversely affect the historic character of the property or the integrity of the district. In fact, they held the opposite. They held that this would actually uphold the historic integrity of this property and the district. One of the worst things you can do to a historic district is not allow modern cars and modern people to exist in this space. The moment you do that, the moment you require a 9-foot flat roof structure that won't fit modern cars, you start to degrade the fabric of historical preservation. There has to be allowances for people to grow and improve their properties. That's exactly what was done here. And perhaps the chair or some of the members used words that were not exactly what the appellant would have liked to hear, but there is no doubt what the intent was, to unanimously approve what they believe to be a historically accurate, historically appropriate development that would not impair the purposes or intent of the guidelines or the standards. So we would ask that you deny this appeal and uphold the unanimous approval by the Historic Preservation Commission. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions, comments? Do we want to hear from Katie? Does anybody have questions for her? Yeah. You're going to have to come up to the mic.
I do have a rebuttal. I did see.
Okay, wait a minute.
I'm sorry?
We're going to hear from Katie first.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't see.
All right.
Katie Friddle, Planning Department. I'm staff to the Historic Preservation Commission.
Questions?
I'm happy to answer questions. I do want to clarify one thing about the motion and the boilerplate language that was inserted in the minutes and kind of how that happened. We have in our bylaws an attachment that includes standard motions for each of the different types of actions the commission can take. Motion to continue, motion to approve with conditions, to approve with unique circumstances, to deny, motion for demolition. I do want to clarify that they are not required to use those motions. It's just giving them boilerplate language to reference and to use when they want to make one of those motions. Typically in the staff report, we include that boilerplate language as part of the staff recommendation so that they can just reference with the findings of the motion in the staff report. That's essentially what the commission member did with this motion, except that because the recommendation in the staff report was not to approve, that language wasn't actually in there. So she kind of made a reference to language that wasn't in the actual staff report. We, in preparing the minutes, as is our kind of typical practice, inserted that boilerplate language, not connecting the dots that the language she referenced as being in the staff report wasn't there. This was brought to our attention, and when the minutes went back to the commission for their acceptance at the following month's meeting, we had corrected that. So it has the essentially verbatim motion in, and I don't think you guys have that in your packet. It would be the minutes from July that they, when those actually went to the commission, it did not have that boilerplate language. It had the motion that the commission actually stated on the horseshoe. So we will talk with the commission about trying to be a little more diligent on how they get all the right words in with their motions, but that's to just clarify that piece.
Does anybody have questions, comments for Katie? Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, rebuttal.
So I did see this rebuttal, this response to our appeals, our 5 complaints, and we don't believe that the official response really adequately addresses any of our 5 complaints. And it actually falls into many of the same traps that I've already discussed at length. For example, in the first paragraph of the response, under justification/unique circumstances, once again, we see how the conflation of the terms standards and guidelines can be perpetuated, and how this can lead to a flawed deliberative process. The paragraph begins with the guideline at issue 445 states, etc. Of course, we've established that this is an error of terminology because 445 is not a guideline. It is in fact a standard. So right off the bat, we have a foundational flaw in the response. The next paragraph attempts to justify the proposed garage on the fact that few one-story garages with flat roofs remain in the area. If anything, from a historical point of view, this rationale would support rebuilding a structure that approximates the original garage, since so many of them have been lost to history. We now have a much greater knowledge about how to care for these kinds of roofs. I have one at my house. You've seen pictures of it. It's the original garage. It has 9.5-foot walls that are taller than the walls that were approved in this particular proposal. We know how to maintain these roofs. We have much better materials that are used for the roofing material. I know this because I've maintained my original flat roof garage for over 30 years, and my house has composition shingles. So I've maintained both, and I do about the same for both of them. Haven't had any more trouble with my flat roof than, and again, it's not really, a flat roof is a misnomer because there is a slope from front to back that allows for drainage. Not only that, but standard 445 only requires that we approximate the original form and massing. So modest alterations in the front to back slope would be appropriate and would be allowable in order to facilitate drainage. And by the way, the slab for this garage was poured in 2021 and increased the original footprint from 430 square feet to 450 square feet legally, which is an increase of about 4.5%, which I think we'd all agree is within the definition of approximating the original footprint. Standard 445 allows this sort of modification. It doesn't require that an exact replica of the original garage be built. It just requires that we retain the original form and massing. The response goes on to claim that there are 4 unique circumstances that justify approval. The form and function of the garage. The form of this garage is not unique. It's not a unique circumstance. All we have to do is look next door at my house at the east abutting property, which has a garage with the exact same form as this garage. And there are other such structures in Mesta Park. And regarding the function, we've already established that the original garage walls were taller than the approved garage walls, and that the footprint of the garage has already been increased to 450 square feet to enhance its functionality. These are not unique circumstances that would justify approval. Second, he says that the degree to which the proposed garage does approximate key aspects of the historic garage. I'm not sure what's meant here, but we don't dispute that 4 of the 6 required architectural elements are in compliance. However, as we discussed, the remaining 2 elements, form and massing, are also required, and these are not in compliance. Standard 445 requires that all 6 elements be approximated. This is not a unique circumstance that would justify approval. And then he says the modest plans for the proposed garage and its contribution to the historic character of the area and subject property. Again, I'm not sure what's meant, but you have to ask, how does this garage that deviates so significantly from the original garage contribute to the historic character of the subject property? I mean, it's a completely different garage form. How is that historically appropriate? It's not. It creates a false sense of history. The design creates this false sense of history that a carriage house was there historically, when in fact an auto house was there historically. These are two distinctly different historical eras. This is not a unique circumstance that would justify approval. 4, he says that the limited visibility of the proposed garage. Well, Standard 445 lacks any limiting language or visibility exemption. So the requirement to approximate the original flat roof form is independent of any visual shielding or location. In fact, the front of this garage with its window and gable roof that resembles a carriage house is visible from the public right-of-way. This is not a unique circumstance that would justify approval. He talks about his 2-story garage in Heritage Hills. In Heritage Hills, his 2-story garage was originally a 2-story garage. And the guidelines and the standards don't tell us that we have to, change anything about that. However, the standard does tell us that we have to approximate the original garage, and if it were a 1-story garage, which it was in this case, that's what we have to approximate. We don't just go around changing the history of the neighborhood. At the end of the day, we're all about historic preservation, not recreation. Then his response goes on to say that the proposed garage is comparable and complementary to other historic garages. This is language that comes from discretionary guidelines, not from our standard 445. And since we have irrefutable photographic documentation of what was there originally, this language that he uses from the guidelines simply doesn't apply to this case. He goes on to say that the proposed garage is clearly secondary to the primary structure, and this fact is not being disputed. Then he says that it meets the threshold for approximating the original. And once again, we have a statement that is not supported by photographic evidence, the Sanborn maps, or any standard definition of the word approximate. This statement is not defensible. The HP Commission cannot make up the word approximate. We all have an idea about what approximate is. And it may vary a little bit from person to person, but I mean, I'm not as tall as Chet Holmgren. I can't pronounce the man's name. And then finally, he says that the HP Commission unanimously deemed these factors to be sufficient and the proposed garage to be historically appropriate. There's nothing magical about a unanimous decision. They can be driven by all sorts of things, including political pressure or certain cultures that develop within institutions or organizations. We know that a unanimous decision arrived at through a flawed deliberative process can lead to a flawed unanimous decision. I believe that I've shown ample objective evidence today that this is what happened in this case and that this unanimous decision should therefore be overturned. The response goes on to say, it referenced guidelines 4.4, 7, 9, and 13, all of which are discretionary and don't apply. The response concludes by stating that there's no legal basis for the board to find the decision of the HPC to be an error. And this statement is refuted by the official case record, which we have seen includes photographs, Sanborn maps, staff reports, and all objective evidence that I've presented today.
You want one more, David?
Yeah, very brief. This is the first I've heard that there was perhaps political pressure at the HP Commission. I wasn't there. My client did this on his own. To my knowledge, he's simply a homeowner that presented his case. HP Commission, just like you, is quasi-judicial, so I am quite confident that there was no political pressure. They simply voted on the merits of the application and approved it. So the bottom line is she doesn't like the result. She perhaps would take away the discretion of the HP Commission. But of course, that is why the mayor and council appoint the HP Commission. They have discretion in their decision-making. She doesn't like the word approximate. But again, the HP Commission, in their discretion, believed that this met that guideline. And I'll close with the specific finding number 6 that the HP Commission arrived at. The guidelines allow for a modest increase in size for construction of new garages, which may also contribute to increased height. The guidelines allow exactly what the HP Commission did. They made a specific finding that the modest increase is absolutely within the guideline, and that is why they approved this. We would ask you to affirm the decision of the HP Commission.
Any questions or comments from the board? I think we've got it lined out, and I think we're ready for a motion if somebody wants to take a stab at it.
I'll make a few comments about watching both commission meetings, watching the deliberation, listening to the facts, understanding the opinions of the individual commissioners and how they got to the determination that they did as a volunteer, making those public opinions, trying to keep in line with, I'm sure, the historical commission and the guidelines that they have to follow. And maybe they didn't make the greatest of motions. I'm no wordsmith, as you can tell. But the intent was there, and I see nothing wrong with what happened at both meetings.
Is that a motion?
That is just my opinion.
I think Mike wants a motion. I mean, I'm reading it 4.4.6 as the may, and I think that there's the HP committee and board has the ability to determine what that means, and in their opinion, I think based off of their history, I think that they felt that this was appropriate, and so based off that, I'm going to vote in favor of denying the appeal and upholding the HP Commission's decision.
Motion?
So moved.
Okay. We have a second? Okay, we have a motion and a second.
Okay, Sarah would like me to just, like we did last time, to ensure that everyone is clear that what you're voting on, a yay vote on this motion, is to uphold the action by the commission. And so your yay vote is saying that the commission was correct in granting what they did, and so, which does have the effect of denying the appeal, but the motion is actually to affirm the actions of the commission.
Okay, that's what I understood. And do you still leave your motion in second so we can vote? Cast your votes. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Katie. Additional items, I don't have any. We don't have any committees. Does anybody want to say something? Chris?
No, thank you.
All right. Citizens to be heard? I don't have any other business. I think we're adjourned.